welcome to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament for the debate on the Premier's opening address. You are welcome to take photographs during the proceedings, but we ask you to please have your flash switched off. Please also make sure that your phone is on silent mode. Thank you very much.
Deputy Speaker.
Let us pray. Masitandaze, Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and promote the interests of our people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelele ilizwa letu na bantu balo umisele ukulungu kipondo letu unkosi sikelele Afrika tinga abantu bayo kokela inkokeli yazo, yiniki ikolo I Africa. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. You may be seated. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed guest to the sitting that is seated in the gallery to my left and also in front, but also a welcome to the media. Before we proceed, I would like to remind members about some of the logistical arrangements. The quorum requirements for sittings of this House are provided in the Constitution and the standing rules. Unless there is an indication of unanimous concurrence, voting will be confined to members present in the House and are entitled to cast their votes as per the standing rules. Members who are considered out of order by the presiding officer will have their microphones muted and called to order. The Sergeant at Arms will record members' attendance. Today's sitting shall be governed by the standing rules, and in an instance where the rules cannot be applied, the ruling of the presiding officer will be final. Members should note that all microphones are muted. When an honourable member wishes to raise a point of order, such an honourable member may address the presiding officer as expected, but must mute their mics when they have completed speaking. Honourable members are requested to please ensure that their mics are unmuted when the presiding officer recognises them, and when they are done speaking, please mute your microphones again. I request those that are here today that are not members of this House to please observe the decorum of this House. As it is customary for all sittings, of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, the proceedings of this House will be broadcast live on our website. For this sitting, language translation services are available in the chamber as usual. Honourable members, I will now note the Secretary, who will read the first order of the day.
Debate on the Premier's opening address.
Honourable members, I think it's also fitting for me to say at this particular time that I have noted the speakers list, and I have observed that 50% of all members that are listed on the speakers list are delivering maiden speeches. I would also look to the official chief whip of the opposition that it is also confirmed that this will be my maiden as the presiding officer. However, we know that in this particular House we remain committed to upholding the decorum of this particular House. At this particular time, I will now note the first speaker that is listed on the order paper, and I see the leader of the official opposition, Honourable Member Syed.
Honourable Premier Alan Winde, Honourable Deputy Speaker Regan Allen, Honourable Members, our distinguished guests and fellow residents of the Western Cape. I would like to thank our Honourable Premier for his warm words of welcome in his address yesterday. As I stand before you today as the leader of the opposition, I am representing not only the African National Congress, but the opposition benches as a whole. As the opposition, we will agree on a unified approach to hold the Premier and his administration accountable. We will ensure that, Premier, you keep your commitment to convene regular sessions between your cabinet and the opposition as a whole outside the sittings of this House to engage on matters of service delivery and policy, amongst other things. Honourable Premier, we acknowledge and support your statement that the new Government of National Unity is a reminder to all of us of the founding principles of our first democratic government of 1994, led by President Nelson Mandela. However, Premier, we are not here to be nostalgic. Our people are faced with the harsh realities of daily life in this province. We cannot ignore their plight. On this note, the lack of a clear and detailed Western Cape program of action for the 7th administration was glaringly absent in the Premier's opening address delivered yesterday. The administration needs a program of action, not a wish list and promissory note which means little to ordinary citizens. The Honourable Premier spoke extensively about the brutal weather that has devastated the lives of thousands of people in our province. However, 12 days after this declaration, we have yet to see concrete action to help people in need, many of whom have lost everything. The unfolding humanitarian crisis in Citrusdal, in the Cederberg municipality, is one such example. This rural town has basically been cut off from the rest of the Western Cape. In my capacity as the leader of the opposition, I wrote to the National Minister of Social Development and to the Gift of the Givers Foundation requesting support to prioritize Citrusdal. We'll go to Citrusdal tomorrow with the Gift of the Givers. The Premier said, and I quote, "Our steady investment in our disaster management system is paying off. If the system was working, we should not have seen the disasters that we did. In addition to the current measures and to increase our readiness for any possible future disasters, we urge the Premier to prioritize the appointment of a Commissioner for the Environment as set out in the Constitution of the Western Cape. The upbeat tone and pretty picture of our province painted by the Premier is not one that millions are able to recognize. 3/4 of our residents are underprivileged. 3 in 4 of our people, Deputy Speaker. The elite and the well-off continue to benefit from the policies of this provincial government. It is concerning that the Premier believes the priorities of the 6th administration will remain in the 7th. The Honourable Premier started his address mentioning that during the campaign, residents told him, "What's the point in voting? Why should I bother? Things won't change." So, Premier, tell us what you will do so differently to change the feelings of those who voted and did not vote for the DA, because they do not see anything meaningful. They do not see any meaningful impact of this government. How will things be different? This government must do more to build a more equal society. The Premier did not mention the racial tensions threatening a truly united South Africa. As a first step, we call on Premier Windy to convene a multi-party and multi-stakeholder dialogue on addressing racism and solutions to make the Western Cape a truly united, non-racial province. From the ANC's 2024 elections manifesto, we have a program of action based on the 3 strategic priorities of the Government of National Unity, as outlined by President Ramaphosa. The ANC is not interested in empty words. Premier, we are here to drive outcomes for inclusive growth and job creation. Premier, we are here to fight for the economy. Reform of the financial and non-financial support system to provide seamless one-stop services for small and medium enterprises. The establishment of industry and community partnerships to harness the job opportunities in the oceans economy. Immediate enforcement of the national minimum wage. In education, addressing the learner enrollment crisis experienced at the beginning of each school year. Just provision of learner transport, particularly in our rural areas. Supporting continuous upskilling of our teachers. Introduce work readiness modules and training to all grade 12 learners in every school. Increasing access to recognition of prior learning courses for older people with work experience with no qualification. In terms of healthcare, accelerating the plans for JF Jooster Hospital, getting it built before the end of the 7th administration. The Honourable Rachel Windvogel will certainly shed more light on our interventions regarding healthcare. On housing and infrastructure development, we demand that this provincial department responsible for human settlements ends the creeping gentrification of places like Boerkaap, and Salt River, back to the national policy of developing inclusive human settlements with mixed housing for all. We need an urgent assessment of the 668 hectares of land released to the Western Cape for opportunities for housing, healthcare, and economic development. We must reduce drastically the number of informal settlements by the end of this administration. We must accelerate the uptake of renewable energy and reduce the tariffs that are too high for too many, especially the poor and working class, including in the city of Cape Town. Action. This is what the voters and the people of the province are calling for. Honourable Premier, we all share the common goal of a united Western Cape, devoid of discrimination, intolerance, gender imbalance, religious intolerance, class or disability intolerance, that battles inequalities and injustice. Luvuyo Zondani, a disability activist, reminded me in his email that none of us have prioritized, let alone mentioned, providing human, social, economic, and political rights of persons with disabilities. The Department of Social Development provides some services, but the unit in the Office of the Premier, responsible for coordinating disability mainstreaming in all government departments, has not been effective in its role. Mr. Zondani catalogues a list of serious issues, and I urge the Premier to meet with him. Mr. Zondani is one of many who have shared their concerns with me about the state of the province, concerns which we are not able to mention because of time constraints. The issue of protection fees that residents have shared their concerns with me about the state of this province. The issues of protection fees that residents have to pay to criminals and gangsters to keep themselves safe is intolerable. The Honourable Benson Gentu will speak to issues of crime affecting our communities. The residents of Salt River request a halt to evictions and instead sell the houses to the residents at reasonable prices on the part of the city of Cape Town. This call is also supported by the EFF, by Al Jama'ah, by the National Cape Coloured Congress, and the Good Parties. The Young Roman Sports Club and community in Guguletu, who have secured private funding for a multi-purpose sports complex with Ajax Amsterdam, are just asking the Western Cape Education Department, which owns the land, to give permission to build the complex. Sadly, this government, Premier, is standing in the way of this public-private partnership for the benefit of the poor. I hope the Premier and his colleagues have at least got a glimpse of the real issues affecting ordinary people across the province. I invite the Premier to join us on the ground amongst our people to see and hear how they experience the Western Cape. The African National Congress remains committed to realizing the freedom of Palestine in this lifetime. We condemn Israel's participation in the Olympic Games and the blatant disregard for the advisory opinion of the ICJ and its advisory committee while Palestinians lay dead on the world stage. I also express my condolences to the Palestinian people and the resistance on the brutal murder of the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. The people of the Western Cape expect us to guide the province towards a better life by working together. Together we must ensure that the politics of consultation finds expression at local government level. We need to collectively bring much needed stability to the hung municipalities in our province so as to drive clean governance and quality services in the best interest of all residents. I know it's something that the Honourable Bradell often speaks about. There should be no monopoly on the best and most impactful ideas in our current political reality to drive our province and its people forward. The ANC, as the official opposition, have a duty and responsibility entrusted to us by voters of this province to hold the DA-led government to account. The ANC is here to drive service delivery and solutions that improve the living and economic conditions of all residents, workers, business, investors, and visitors in our province. Therefore, Honourable Premier, The ANC, as the official opposition in this province and represented in this House, assures you that our presence and representation here will reflect the mandate of our voters and all other voters, even those who didn't vote for us, who during this term expects and experiences this government to be governing, performing, delivering better than it does. The ANC in this House and province will bring forward, Deputy Speaker, policy proposals and recommendations in the interest of building and moving this province forward, not burning nor breaking. We have and will continue to listen to our people, civil society and economic stakeholders. Thus, we are committed to bringing forward implementable legislation that drives meaningful and transformative growth and ensures that the people of our province benefit economically from its advancement and continued and persistently high levels, because this includes addressing the continued and persistently high levels of prevailing poverty, unemployment, homelessness, and inequality in our province. We must do this, not merely to hold you to account before this House, Honourable Premier, and to the people of our province, but to ensure that you, Premier, and the Democratic Alliance as the governing party in this province has no choice but to work with us and not against us for the benefit of our people and our province. The ANC expects and accepts nothing less. Our people are facing the harshest realities on the ground, in communities, places of work, institutions in our province, and we have not done enough to bring about real change to their lives. And I say we, I speak about the body politic. We must do more. And indeed, there is hope and there is opportunity to do so. Working in this manner, we have the unique prospect of doing so during our tenure, Deputy Speaker. But we must do so working together, not against. We have a collective responsibility to develop and consistently implement only the best policy ideas to overcome the myriad of challenges we face and unlock the boundless opportunities and untapped potential of our province nationally, within the African continent and the global stage. Premier, this is not optional. It is imperative and what our province and its people deserves. As the ANC and the opposition as a whole, we will do it. But I invite you and your government to work with us in achieving it together. I thank you.
Thank you, Member. We started off on a positive note that we kept time. So I will now see the second speaker who is delivering her maiden speech in this particular House. Members, as per the convention, we are fully aware that during the delivery of a maiden speech, convention normally dictates that we will limit heckling as well as interjections. However, there is a limitation in terms of that particular speech and the content actually being non-controversial. I will now note the Honourable Van Minen.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, yesterday in this august House, we heard the Premier of the Western Cape, the Honourable Alan Winde, give his opening address for the 7th Parliament. In it, he laid out many of the successes the Western Cape government has achieved over the last term. But perhaps more importantly, he outlined the plans and hopes for this upcoming term that are designed to see the people of the Western Cape not only survive under uncertain circumstances, but to thrive in this province. This province that has the lowest unemployment rate in South Africa. This province, which has the fastest growing population in South Africa. And this province, which has the highest voter turnout in South Africa. What this illustrates, Speaker, is that people in the Western Cape have something to vote for. They have hope for the future, something which in recent years has been all too rare in our nation. Speaker, I believe that this hope is down to the fact that in the Western Cape, the only province governed by the DA in an outright majority, our government is prepared not only for the issues of today, but the issues of tomorrow, next year, and the next decade. In a quote that is as true now as it was when first delivered in 1790, famed polymath Benjamin Franklin told us that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And nowhere is that more true than in South Africa. Many of the problems we face as a nation can be put down to a consistent inability of previous national governments to plan properly, economically, spatially, and geostrategically. The results are obvious. Ongoing sustainability problems, economic crisis, and environmental degradation for so many citizens living in our country. But where has this not been the case? Where have we seen success, growth, and rising prosperity? Here, in this single province, the Western Cape. And why? Because the government of the Western Cape plans for the future. We see this forward focus as our government responds to the extreme levels of rainfall and flooding that have beset our province. The weather in recent weeks has placed our province in an exceptionally difficult position. Yes, our dams are full, but our people are suffering. Our ground is waterlogged, our rivers are in spate, and our infrastructure is under serious challenge from the ongoing rain. But at the same time, we have seen our disaster risk management first responders spring into action. Properly capacitated, resourced and trained, they have provided absolutely vital support to our communities and kept the province running in the face of substantial adversity. Contrast this response with provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, whose previous government not only failed to ameliorate the disasters of flooding and mudslides of recent years, but failed to take the necessary steps to plan for future natural disasters. When this happens, it is sadly the people on the ground who suffer, not the political figures that failed them. The fact that failing to plan is increasingly no longer an option. The harsh reality of climate change is here and here to stay. And when the chips are down, when the rivers are flooding, when infrastructure is falling apart, I am grateful that we have a government which plans ahead. But this is not just in the area of disaster risk management that we've seen this forward-thinking approach. Our province is leading the way in confronting the energy crisis caused by previous national governments. And as we heard yesterday, the Western Cape government is using technology to make a real difference in the lives of people. Robotic surgeries, tech-enabled policing, new applications to reduce administrative burdens on our social workers. In these initiatives, we can see a government that is not only thinking about the present moment, but also the years to come. As the fourth industrial revolution continues forward at an ever greater pace, the onus is on us as policymakers and public representatives to ensure that our citizens do not get left behind. And I am glad to see this government taking steps not only to leverage technology for the provision of its own services, but to bridge the gap in bringing digital access to all of our residents. Above all else, I am glad to see that Premier Windy's relentless focus on job creation through economic growth has not wavered. The fact that our province boasts South Africa's lowest unemployment rate is testament to the immensely hard work of this government in recent years. But we must remind ourselves that there is still much work to do. The same could be said for the issues of crime, where the pressing need remains for proper resources and decentralized policing, which will make a real difference on the streets of our most violent communities. I'm glad to hear the Premier continuing his commitment to these most important of issues. But Speaker, while yesterday's speech left me optimistic for the work that will be done over the 7th term, it is important to note that we do not have smooth sailing ahead of us. The simple reality is that in this province, we are shortchanged. The years-long problem of underpayment of the rightful equity share is approaching breaking point. And all of this government's careful planning and smart solutions stand to be for naught if we cannot fund them. I am pleased that we are stepping into a new political landscape at the national level, but my hope for this province is that we will be able to work with this unprecedented government of national unity to finally get what is rightfully ours. Yesterday, the Premier told us that he has given our Provincial Minister of Finance special instructions to work with National Treasury to ensure the situation is resolved. Speaker, I believe that all of us in this House, no matter party political affiliations, should pledge our utmost support for this process. After all, each of us sits in this chamber only because the people of our province voted for us. How are we to repay them if we do not secure the funds necessary to deliver services? Each of us has the duty to serve those who put us here, and I believe that that duty starts with making sure this government finally receives the financial resources it is entitled to. So as we begin this debate today and set the wheels for the 7th Western Cape Provincial Parliament into motion, it is worth taking a moment to remember why we are here. Earlier I mentioned Benjamin Franklin, who told us of the importance of planning. But he also gave us another truth that is worth remembering. Lost time is never found again. There is no time to lose. The people of the Western Cape have spoken and delivered a renewed mandate to this House and to this government. And this party, the task ahead now is to deliver to our people, to plan for the future, and to leave this province better than when we found it. Those watching this debate, those who have sent us here, expect results. I fully believe that this House and government will not let them down. The 7th Parliament has begun. Let's get to work. I thank you.
Thank you so much. The following speaker will also be delivering his maiden speech. I now note the Honourable Van Wyk.
Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier, Honourable Members and esteemed guests in the gallery. In his opening of Parliament address, the Premier outlined the achievements, objectives and challenges we face in this new term of office. These challenges are not just hurdles but opportunities. Opportunities to enhance the lives, experiences and prospects of all our citizens. A key area where we must continue making progress is education. We all recognize the vital role education plays in preparing individuals for the workforce and in providing dignity through employment. To address the pressing issues within this term, we should focus on 3 critical areas: infrastructure, improving the learning experience, and supporting vulnerable learners. Our province allocates a significant portion of its budget to education. However, recent fiscal constraints have had a profoundly negative impact on the sector. This reduction directly affects our learners and educational institutions. Despite these financial constraints, we must adapt and make do with fewer resources. This inevitably means that we need to cut costs for the current financial year. The Premier has referred to the principle of fair budget allocation among provinces. We anticipate engaging in discussions with our Government of National Unity, partners to address these budgetary concerns. However, it may well take 3 to 5 years to resolve these financial issues fully. As a result of in-year budget reductions and the impact of austerity measures on the 24-25 budget, the education budget has been set at 30.85 billion rand. This represents an increase of only 466 million rand, or 1.54% from the revised estimate of 30.38 billion for the 23-24 fiscal year. This minimal increase falls short of an additional 1 billion and 53 million rand, 1.053 billion, that a 5% inflationary increase would have provided. To balance the budget, the operational budget was increased by 3%, while infrastructure spending was reduced by 382 million to 2.3 billion rand. This reduction means that the operational needs of education are underfunded by over 500 million, with infrastructure facing similar shortfalls. One of the greatest challenges in education is infrastructure provision. Our province is the fastest growing in South Africa, not only due to internal growth, but also due to in-migration from the other provinces. We must address overcrowding by building more schools. Currently, 405,000 learners, 34% of our total, are in overcrowded classrooms, and there are 45 schools with more than 1,500 learners each. From 2019 to 2023, 2,255 classrooms were built, but another 1,440 additional classrooms are still needed. This highlights the severe impact of reduced infrastructure spending. Over the coming months, innovative and practical solutions will be necessary. The Western Cape Educational Department has begun exploring private-public partnerships to encourage private sector investment in school infrastructure. This approach aims to alleviate the pressure on capital funding and redirect resources towards operational needs. Despite these fiscal constraints, the DA government remains committed to supporting all learners, especially the vulnerable ones. We are aware that 55% of our learners are from no-fee schools, and approximately half receive nutritional support during school days. Socioeconomic and psychosocial challenges such as poverty, high employment, gangsterism, violence, drug abuse, and inadequate infrastructure directly impact on our learners. Our provincial government is tackling these challenges head-on. To address learning issues from the COVID-19 pandemic, the WCED has launched the Back on Track program, allocating budget and resources for additional tutoring and holiday and weekend classes. The program has shown positive results, improving language and mathematics scores at the national senior certificate level. The foundation phase, heavily impacted by the pandemic, has received additional time and interventions in early grade literacy and numeracy. These efforts have led to significant gains in grade 3 scores in both languages and mathematics compared to the previous year. The Education Department is also focused on creating safer, more secure schools. They are providing support through behaviour programs and counselling to address rising issues such as antisocial behaviour, bullying, assault, and substance abuse. They are also working to improve early childhood development. In the Western Cape, we are committed to learning from each other and collaborating to make our resources stretch further. Our Rapid School Build program, capable of constructing entire schools in under 70 days, has proven effective. This program has built hundreds of new classrooms in some of the province's poorest communities, bridging the gap of economic hardship and providing quality education. New projects like the Lwandile and Blue Ridge educational precincts are underway, promising even more benefits for our learners. Earlier this year, the Rapid School Build program received a significant endorsement from National Treasury with an additional 2.549 billion allocation. In this term of office, our goals are to enhance basic mathematics and literacy scores and equip learners with skills for a growing Western Cape economy. We continue to seek ways to improve learning experiences and address the vulnerabilities faced by many. During the considerable challenges of managing critical infrastructure funding and operational budgets, we remain optimistic about finding practical solutions to improve the lives of our citizens. Within the government of national unity, we must continuously listen and understand each other. This government represents a unique opportunity to incorporate diverse perspectives, strengthen our democracy, and enhance our policy-making processes. Let us embrace evidence-based programs, new ideas, greater accountability, and unwavering dedication to our educational landscape. Our children are our future, and together we can make that future brighter than ever before. Thank you.
Thank you. I now note Member Petrus also delivering his maiden speech.
Honorable Speaker, Premier, members of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, and all citizens of the Western Cape. We as the PA take this opportunity to provide insight into the speech of the Premier. For years, the voice of the colored population and the destitute of this province have been silent, but the PA is here to place their needs and voices at the center of decision making. With that said, the PA commits itself to make a meaningful and constructive contribution in this Parliament. Is it that yesterday's success story of the Premier are becoming same old, same old? Ons verstaan die oorblyfsels van die bitter eindes is nog steeds besig om die transformasieproses te kniehalter en te kelder. En dat hulle nie hierdie proses wil laat slaag nie. Ons staan echter as die PA sement vas. Op die kwestie van misdaad en geweld, dit is een van ons grootste uitdagings en raak ons totale samenlewing. Ons inwoners is gevangene in hul eie woonbuurtes en soos die situasie nou lyk dit of daar groot fout is met ons benadering en ons metodes. Kom ons gee ons kinders weer 'n kans. Kom laat ons weer vennootskappe sluit met ons gemeenskappe en belê meer in maatskaplike opheffing, maatskaplike werkers, NGO's, sport, opvoeding en vaardighede. Kom ons bemagtig ons buurtwagte en ons polisieforums. Die PA steun u by die skep van verbeterde infrastruktuur. Ons verstaan die belangrikheid van 'n inkomste vir elke gesin en ondersteun 'n intensiewer openbare werkeprogram wat meer volhoubaar sal wees. Ons sal saam met u werk om die nodige fondse te bekom. Die PA verwelkom grootskaalse projekte, maar ons deurbraak is in die bou van die tweede ekonomie. Die ondersteuning van kleinsake besighede beskoning is van kardinale belang. Kom ons verwyder die red tape en laat ons mense se drome realiseer. Die PA glo dat die benadering tot die hantering van rampe hersien moet word. Die grootste slagoffers is hulle wat nie in 'n posisie is om hulself te kan help nie. Agbare Premier, dit bring ons by een van die olifante in die huis, die George geboue ramp. Agbare Premier, u wil sekerlik nie u nalatenskap laat onthou word deur die huidige geheime ondersoek na die tragedie nie. Die munisipale bestuurder van George munisipaliteit, sowel as die direkteur van beplanning, het reeds stil hul tasse gepak en geloop. Een van hulle, agbare Premier, is vandag 'n lid van die huis. Agbare Premier, ons vra dat u onmiddellike geregtelike kommissie van ondersoek instel na die ramp? Het u die machten daarvoor of het u niet? Indien wel, vraag ons dat u onmiddellijk zodanige gerechtelijke commissie instelt. Als u hierdie albatros om uw nek wil hê, of wil hou, gaan dit uw probleem wees. Maar ons glo, u sal die regte ding doen en so 'n commissie instel. Die skuldiges kan in hierdie geval nie wegkom nie. Ons mense staan nog steeds vir lang ure by klinieke en hospitale. Daar is nog steeds 'n tekort aan ambulanse en wie lê daaronder? Die behoeftiges en die armes. Hulle wat woon in die voorheen benaderde gebiede. Kom, ons gee aandag aan hierdie situasie en verbeter ons gesondheidsdienste en spandeer meer om dit op 'n beter vlak te bring. Dankie.
Thank you so much. I now note the Honorable Kasim.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, as the Western Cape patiently waited for the Premier's plan of action, yesterday's address by the Premier delivered absolutely none of that, as it delivered not even a bit of hope for the poor and the marginalized in this province, Deputy Speaker. We were really hoping that the Premier would firstly give us an update on all the projects and promises that he introduced in his first term. But he stood here yesterday bragging over a whole lot of nothing and instead came with new promises, knowing very well that he still has incomplete projects of the previous term. The Premier spoke about storms, Deputy Speaker. He spoke about disasters, but he forgot to mention one of the most important things that I think a lot of us would have appreciated, which was that of the disaster on the Cape Flats and in other parts of the province, which is drugs, gangsterism, and crime in particular. Deputy Speaker, he failed to address this in the previous term, so it was clear that yesterday there was no plan of action or idea as to how he actually plans to eradicate crime in the province. This is why we would have noticed that he only mentioned a few sentences related to crime, which was something about technology, and nothing about how he actually plans to address the root causes of crime, Deputy Speaker. But this then brings us to the question of what has the Premier and his government really done to address crime in this province? Because seriously, Deputy Speaker, why is this province still experiencing an increase of crime, especially in poorer communities under his watch as the Premier? Why are gangs still holding our communities hostage under your watch, Premier? Why are young children dropping out of school and joining gangs daily under your watch, Premier? Why has these issues not been eradicated under your watch, Premier? Deputy Speaker, the Premier never spoke anything about townships or poorer communities who suffer under dire conditions, also under his watch, Premier, also under the Premier's watch, with no or little services, because even the simplest things that the Premier could have done for the poor and the marginalized in this province has not been prioritized in the previous term, and it won't be prioritized in this term. To add, how can we trust what the Premier is promising us in this new term when you know very well that he failed in the previous term? So, Premier, I'd like to ask, and if you can give us an update, Premier, what happened to the 24/7 Grabouw Community Day Centre? Because even here, the DA failed to follow on such a simple pilot project to keep the facility open 24/7. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Premier promised that his government will procure its own COVID-19 vaccines and create more jobs specifically for those in the health sector, but both never took place. During that time, many healthcare workers were used during the pandemic and promised better salaries as well. When it ended, Deputy Speaker, the Premier and his government turned against his workers, serving many of these employees with termination letters. In 2021, the Premier indicated that the Blue Dot minibus taxi project was a great approach. However, what followed from that was a total failure as well, as not only did the Premier fail to expand this project, but his government pulled a plug on it, leaving the taxi industry out in the cold. In 2022, the Premier promised to turn the old Robin Urach Day Hospital into a shelter for homeless people, promising over 120 beds for the homeless people. But his government made a U-turn on this project as well and came with silly excuses. It was later turned into a museum, clearly for tourist purposes. So how exactly can we trust the Premier with such a history? In conclusion, the EFF will table a motion in National Parliament that requires ministers to have a post-matric qualification. We are going to extend this motion to legislatures to include that premiers, speakers, and MECs must have a post-qualification and from recognized tertiary institutions, because clearly part of the problem here is that we have premiers and MECs who lack the requisite variety and understanding to run a province and take care of the actual needs of its people. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, order members. 25% of speeches have been delivered, and we are all within time. Thank you so much. I now note the Honourable Jacobs, who is also delivering his maiden speech.
Thank you. Greetings to all. I greet you all in the name of the Most High. Kayesa, Amase. Mr. Premier, I stand before this chamber as a humble son of the Cape Flats, where I still reside to this day. Premier, your address to this house was well framed, yet it was lacking in both truth and context. I've been deployed to this august house, Mr. Premier, to tell the colored truth. It is my intention to tell the truth and nothing else. Mr. Premier, I did not come here to fight. I came here for the overdue accountability owed to the now deceased coloureds and those who are yet to be born in this oppression. It is my intention to ask some questions, state simple facts, and expect no transparency, truth in response. This is how this administration deals with my people, is it not? Why, Honoured Premier, was no apology offered to the coloured community for your government's lameful handling of the gang wars raising on the coloured community? Why, Honoured Premier, was no apology offered to the coloured child for the abuse of its education monies in excess of 1 billion rand of it? Mr. Premier, why was no apology offered to the elderly coloueds, those who were evicted from their ancestral land, whose heritage is still being sold by the Democratic Alliance as if apartheid never ended? And the truth is, apartheid has never ended in this province. In fact, under your administration, brown is the new black. Premier, we concur that the budget cuts implemented due to your coalition partners, the ANC's woeful managing of this country's fiscus, will not make improving anything any easier. But take us into your confidence and explain to us why this government won't spend monies available in the coloured communities, even when spending it, it's easier than retaining it. As a simple example, the Menenberg School of Skills was supposed to be built in 2017. But this DA administration of yours refused to award the tender to a coloured woman, choosing to unlawfully award it to Horn Ingalls, a company which is not only white-owned, but is also known to empower gang bosses without tax money. Your government has wasted millions in legal fees to the aggrieved coloured contractor, yet Menenberg has no School of Skills. In 2023, Judge Slingers of the Cape High Court ordered this government to right its supply chain management wrongs regarding the Menenberg School of Skills. To this day, this government is in contempt of court. All this to further disenfranchise coloured excellence. Mr. Premier, in light of all the social ills in the coloured community, please explain to us why you deny our children the opportunity to upskill, live better, and perhaps live longer. In light of the evidence presented here, will you, Mr. Premier, take a public stand against the officials who break our laws and pass the legal bill to the taxpayer? Premier, will you account for the GF Jooste Hospital closed by the Democratic Alliance? Can we quantify the hours of pain and frustration suffered by the poor, the elderly, and the disabled as years of empty promises of a replacement hospital has become nothing but an illusion? And Mr. Premier, I think this House can concur that the answer is no. I want to know, has any other community been targeted for the pain, suffering, and gutter education like mine has? Premier, listen carefully. Tonight, 10 of our sons will die on the Cape Flats alone. In light of the fact that the current safety plan is ineffective, what is the plan to ensure the safety of my people? Is the release of our ancestral lands on the agenda? Will you address the forceful removals and the Group Area Acts, or will you continue to sell our rights to the wealthy? Now, it is very sad to see after 30 years of democracy in this Western Cape Provincial Parliament, you don't have one small little item that resembles the Khoi, the San, and the Bushman whose genocide was committed right here in this province. Skam julle. Premier, if we unlock the stolen land from our parents, most social ills will dissipate. But this oppressing government knows this. Mr. Premier, with all due respect, this is not 2019. Our colored people will not be open to an abuser for another term. The NCC will make sure this won't happen again. Amase, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Jacobs. I now note Minister Bredell.
Honourable Premier, Honourable Ministers, Honourable Members of the House, Speaker, it is an honour for me to take part in this debate on the Premier's opening address at the official opening of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. I am excited about the next 5 years of governing in the Western Cape. Speaker, die Wes-Kaap bly die bes bestuurde provinsie in Suid-Afrika. Ons munisipaliteite troon uit ten opsigte van die res van Suid-Afrika en dit is die afgelope jaar weer eens bevestig met 27 uit 30 skoon audits deur die ouditeur-generaal. Ja, ons weet, ons kan nie skoon audits eet nie. Ons kan ook nie korrupsie eet nie. Goeie regering begin by accountable financial management. En dit is wat ons offer vir ons gemeenskappe. Die Wes-Kaap staan ook weer eens uit met 15 blou druppel toekennings deur die Departement van Water en Sanitasie. Dit getuig van goeie waterbestuur in hierdie provinsie en gee regte hoop aan die burgers van hierdie provinsie dat die regering gee om. Volgens Good Governance Africa sê 2024 verslag is Wes-Kaap die beste metro in die land. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Swartland munisipaliteit is die beste klein munisipaliteit in die land. Drakensberg munisipaliteit is die beste sekondêre munisipaliteit in die land. Saldanha die beste groot dorp munisipaliteit in die land. 15 van ons top 20 munisipaliteite in Suid-Afrika is in die Wes-Kaap. Dit is iets om op trots te wees, agbare Deputy Speaker. Maar ons weet, daar gaan baie uitdagings wees in die pad vorentoe. Ons provinsie word beïnvloed deur verskeie eksterne tendense wat buite ons beheer is en ons kan slegs die impak daarvan bestuur, agbare Deputy Speaker. Ek verwys na onder andere die klimaatsverandering, die Wes-Kaap se gaan warmer en droër word en storms en droogtes gaan meer intens word in die Wes-Kaap. Populasiegroei en migrasie na die Wes-Kaap, die verstedeliking vind plaas toenemend druk op ons begroting om basiese dienste aan almal te lewer. Meer mense beteken meer risiko wanneer ons vloede en veldbrande het. Ongelykheid in Suid-Afrika oorheers steeds die besluite van begrotingstoedelings wat ons maak. Ongelykheid hang soos 'n verskrikte rookwolk oor alles in hierdie land. Slegs volgehoue ekonomiese groei kan ons laat deurbreek na helder blou lig. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the predicted increase in intensity of weather events due to climate change has hit us hard in recent times. 3.5 billion rand worth of infrastructure was destroyed in just 2 flooding events, June and September 2023. We suffered extensive damage along our coastline due to storm surges in 2023. Garden Route District Municipality calculated this to be more than 46 million rand. We had an extreme busy fire season, which has stretched our firefighting resources to the limits several times already. Our firefighting services has since December 2023 responded to 9,500 fires, which burned 135,000 hectares. A provincial disaster was declared for the severe weather events in June 2023 and July 2024, while the national classification was published in the Government Gazette for the September 2023 severe weather event. Recovering from these disaster events has put a financial strain on municipalities and the sector departments. This has been further worsened by the frequency and severity of the events, as well as tight fiscal environment. Honourable Deputy Speaker, with the Department of Local Government Assistance, the province has been allocated approximately 402 million rand across 14 municipalities. Assessments for the recent flooding in July 2024 is not completed yet, but will once again be huge. Cape Nature, our conservation entity, calculated 389 million rand of damages on the roads and infrastructure across its facilities within the province. In a challenging fiscal climate, it is crucial to form partnerships with NGOs and private sector to drive our initiatives in our municipalities. This requires a shift in how we strategically reduce, mitigate, and prepare for disasters. Deputy Speaker, a growing population can be either positive or negative depending on how you manage and plan around it. We need people to work and to grow the economy and to enrich our communities and cultures. People represent new ideas, improved ways of doing things, and only people can create excitement about a shared future for our children and the generations to come. Speaker, but people have basic needs such as water, electricity, housing, schools and hospitals. A growing population represents growing needs for these services. I am particularly worried about water security if we combine the anticipated impact of climate change and on our weather together with our projected population growth. According to census data, the province saw population growth of 27% over the past decade, now standing at 7.2 million people. This number is expected to grow to 8 million people by 2030, and I think we can actually expect it's going to reach 8 million people by 2028-2029. This means we add another 800,000 people to this province, meaning if we look at water, we need then 161 million litres of extra water per day, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Are we ready for that? According to the PERO, the Provincial Economic Review and Outlook, we can expect a population of 10 million people by 2040. Speaker, during the recent severe weather, the hardest hit communities were informal settlements around Cape Town. Estimates indicate that more than 150,000 people were affected. Many people lost their shelter and spent several days in cold and wet conditions. Thanks to all our NGOs, Gift of the Givers, Lion Clubs, the Red Cross, the public, who came to the forefront and helped all of us to support these communities. But a lot of the suffering could have been avoided if people did not live in unsuitable low-lying areas. Honourable Speaker, I once again want to warn about the Drift Sands community that is situated downstream of a retention pond. This area is dangerous and an accident waiting to happen. And I call on all political parties to help us to find a solution to move these people. Speaker, ons 15-jaar waterplan is een voorbeeld van hoe ons beplan vir die toekoms. Die program gee vir ons data oor elke dorp se populasiegroei, ekonomiese groeiverwagtinge en koppel dit aan toekomstige waterbehoeftes. Elke dorp in die Wes-Kaap se bestaande waterbronne en waterinfrastruktuur is ook bepaal en nou kan ingeligte beplanning vir die toekoms gemaak word. Speaker, ek doen weer 'n beroep op die Nasionale Departement van Water en Sanitasie om asseblief die Klein Willem Dam klaar te bou en of om die geld oor te dra na die provinsie sodat ons dit kan doen. Ons doen ook 'n beroep om die Voëlvlei se kapasiteit te verbeter deur middel van pompkapasiteit na die Bergrivier. Speaker, meer mense beteken meer druk op 'n noue interaksie met die natuur. Dit beteken dat rampe soos veldbrande en vloede al hoe meer risiko inhou vir ons groeiende bevolking, soos ons nader en nader aan mekaar en aan die natuurlike omgewing beweeg. Speaker, on 6th of May this year, a building site in George collapsed. Rescue services coordinated by the Department of Local Government Disaster Risk Management Centre managed to pull 62 people out of the rubble. 33 were dead or died later in hospital. This tragedy and huge loss of life is one of the largest construction disasters ever experienced in South Africa. According to international experience, such building collapses or disasters have only a 10% survival rate. In George, a 53 survival rate was achieved. Deputy Speaker, we must recognise the excellent work our Department of Local Government through the Disaster Management Centre played in this regard. The speed and professionalism response immediately after the building collapse played a crucial role in finding many of the survivors within the first 48 hours of this incident. The absolute commitment and dedication of our rescue workers led to a near miracle rescue of Gabriel Gambe on unbelievable after 118 hours in this building collapse. Speaker, ons huidige rampbestuur vermoë is stukkie vir stukkie opgebou sedert 2010. Daar was nooit groot bedrag geld beskikbaar nie, maar ons het elke jaar iets gedoen met wat beskikbaar was. Brandweerwaens is aan munisipaliteite geskenk, reddingswerkers is opgeleid, toerusting is onderhou en vervang. Speaker, ons moet ons rampbestuurinstansies koester met die oog op die toekoms. Opleiding, internasionale blootstelling, moderne toerusting moet voortdurend in belê word, sodat ons die mense van die Weskaap veilig kan hou ten tye van nood. Speaker, with a new government of national unity comes new opportunities. I have already spoken to the National Cocktail Minister, Labisa, on the MOU between the coastal provinces regarding disaster risk management. We must learn from each other and must build a team so that we can support one another in times of need. In that case, we look at the Eastern Cape and KZN to sign an MOU with us so that we can support and safeguard our community. Speaker, I once again call on the national government to strengthen the National Working for Fire program. Our country has distinct and different fire seasons, and we need a well-functioned and well-funded national entity that can move resources across borders as they are needed. I am concerned about the National Defence Force inability to provide aerial support during the recent floods and fires. A provincial government cannot afford a fleet of helicopters or large fixed-wing water bombers. Our national government can. Agbare Speaker, klimaatsverandering dwing ons om met nuwe oë na ons natuurlike omgewing te kyk. Verskeie studies stem saam dat die verwydering van indringende plantegroei uit ons wateropvangsgebiede en langs ons riviere 'n uitstekende belegging is. Indringende planke drink meer water as inheemse plante. Dit beteken dat daar waar indringende plantegroei oorneem, word ons ontneem van kosbare water wat uiteindelik in elkeen van ons huis beskikbaar behoort te wees. Indringende groei ons riviere toe en wanneer daar vloede is, oorstroom riviere en veroorsaak miljoene rande se skade aan privaat eiendom, paaie en brûe. Ons het dit nou weer in Citrusdal beleef en as ons nie ons lesse leer nie, gaan dit weer gebeur. Speaker, daar is 'n gesegde wat sê dat 'n donkie nie sy kop 2 keer teen dieselfde klip stamp nie. Kom ons wees beter as 'n donkie in Citrusdal. Agbare Speaker, na hierdie nat reenseisoen kan ons onsself reeds regmaak vir 'n baie besige brandseisoen. Dit is 'n feit dat indringende plantegroei warmer en meer intens brand as 'n inheemse fynbos, wat natuurlik van tyd tot tyd moet brand. Indringende veldbrande is 'n baie groter gevaar vir ons brandbestryders se lewens en die publiek se eiendom. Speaker, hier is ook 'n area waar ek groter samewerking met veral die versekeringsbedryf wil sien. Indien huiseienaars versekering teen brande het, kan dit nie wees dat net die provinsiale regering geld spandeer om eiendom te beskerm teen veldbrande en veral hoë risiko areas nie. Honourable Speaker, I conclude, a government is a lot like a complicated machine. You can compare to a motor car. You can have the best and most powerful car, but if the steering wheel or you don't have a tire, it cannot move. We are living in times of severe austerity measures due to the weak economic environment. Government budgets are under enormous pressure. Cuts must be made across the board. I know that the Western Cape administration under the leadership of Premier Wendy has the moral backbone and the required experience to make the tough choices. We will deliver more with less. We will not remove the steering wheel just to make the car cheaper. We are committed and we will work for a better future for the people of this province. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Also delivering his maiden speech, I now note the Honourable Masipa.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, Premier, Ministers, Members of Parliament, our guests in the gallery. Today, we are debating the State of the Province address under rather different circumstances, with our beloved country now governed by the Government of National Unity. The resilience of South Africans has once again shown that when the going gets tough, we come together like coming for a braai on a rugby match day. Despite many efforts by South Africans to stand united to make the country work post-2024 general elections, there are still a few outliers who prefer to dance to their own offbeat tune. Some political folks amongst us chose to loot Gogo's money from VBS, clearly inspired by Ngandla drama of swimming pool series. I'm glad there is no VBS Ngandla Western Cape connection. The one-year-old babies in the National Assembly seem determined to resurrect the ghosts of the famous 9 wasted years that plunge us into darkness. And then there are those who try to divide us along racial lines as if we are contested on a misguided reality show. We know you and we see you. I'm delighted to report that South Africans have collectively said, no thanks, we have seen enough Gucci's and Russia vodka's parties. The drunkenness of those out of these vodkas makes them even forget their previous night statements. This past weekend, some were very busy celebrating 11 wasted years of flip-flopping, an anniversary that today no one can really remember. I'm particularly pleased that the voters of the Western Cape have rejected this tantrum-throwing divas. When they tried to divide us, we stood united in purpose and committed to the good of our province. Honourable Premier, enough of the GNU. Agriculture is the lifeblood of the Western Cape. A recent study by Westcro conducted in November 2022 revealed that agriculture in the Western Cape have contributed 4.37% to province gross value added over the past 5 years. Moreover, this study highlighted that a remarkable 19% of South Africa's total agriculture, GVA, comes from this province, the Western Cape. The growth of this sector is crucial for our province's prosperity through SMME and tourism. You must listen. However, recent images of the devastation caused by floods in areas like Citrusdal are deeply concerning. Thank you, Premier, for acting swiftly. And yes, more still need to be done. And I know we can, and yes, we can. I welcome the urgent interventions of the declaration of provincial state of disaster to expedite the release of funds necessary for rebuilding our roads and other critical infrastructure to ensure service delivery and that businesses start to thrive again. I will be condemned not to debate the Glen William Dam debacle. The initial feasibility studies for raising this dam by 30 meters, which was completed in October 2007, estimated the cost at 1.8 billion rands with a tender bid of 2 billion rands. It was anticipated that this vital project will commence in September 2013. You must listen. Taking 55 months to complete, with a projected completion date May 2018. However, the construction faced numerous delays. Consequently, a new bid was issued in August 2016 to increase the storage at a cost of 2.2 billion rands. The dam is now expected to be completed by 2026 April at a cost of 3.9 billion rands, double the price that it was initially costed. Honourable Premier, the farmers, businesses, and community of Glen William cannot wait to realize a reliable supply of water for existing agriculture and farming. Additional water resources for resource-poor farmers in the area, with 75% of additional yield dedicated to them. You must listen. Honorable Premier, water is the bedrock of small businesses in our rural town. We welcome your commitment, Honorable Premier, to engage our GNU ministers. Please bring this dam project to their attention as well. Complete dam will assist in driving economic growth and inclusion in this agricultural sector. I wholeheartedly support the enthusiasm and commitment shown by our Provincial Minister of Agriculture towards small towns. He's not here, he's in the small town fixing some of the challenges. Together, let us build a stronger, more resilient rural Western Cape. Honorable Premier, the subject of wine is very dear to me. As a proud graduate of the business of wine, I'm acutely aware of the myriad challenges faced daily by our farmers, farm workers, and all role players in the value chain. National Treasury, instead of easing the pressure, now proposes excess duties based on alcohol content rather than per bottle. This goes against the global norm where all countries charge per bottle. Please add this item when engaging the GNU partners to rethink this approach. The wine industry and biological assets are indeed the backbone of agriculture in our province. Speaking of wine, let's look at some sobering statistics from WOSA. In 2023, we exported 16.9% less wine, following a 5% drop in 2022 Premier. These numbers highlight the need for a concerted effort to support our farmers and workers in placing more wine on the tables worldwide. The African market in particular is crucial, Premier. Unfortunately, we also saw a decline from 90 million liters of bottles of wine consumed to 60 million liters consumed in Africa. Honorable Premier, your efforts to preserve AGOA are commendable. According to Westcross, sorry, Premier, apologies. Maiden speech. Relax.
Order, members.
Speak. Your efforts, Premier, to preserve AGOA is commendable. According to Westcross AGOA fact sheet, nearly 30,000 jobs were sustained through export-related activities under AGOA Treaty in 2021. Honorable Premier, foreign direct investment is vital. I urge you we do everything to retain these preferential benefits. It is only through working together with global communities with shared values that we can secure prosperous future for our beloved agricultural sector in the Western Cape. Honorable Premier, foot and mouth disease is now at our doorstep. The last outbreak in 2023 has created a problem in the Free State. Honorable Premier, we urge that you also engage on this matter with our national province, in our national NGO partners, in order to ensure that this foot and mouth disease does not spread in the Western Cape. This is to ensure that animals transported between provinces are thoroughly disinfected. We definitely, Premier, recommend that a permanent spray booth at the border in the Western Cape be installed. Notably, we also, Premier, want to also recommend or commend your work with regards to our entrepreneurs, which has once again shown that you have produced remarkable achievements for the people of the Western Cape. The Western Cape Booster Fund has supported over 950 SMME across the Western Cape, sustaining 4,977 jobs. Booster funds dedicated 85.5 million rands since 2019. Additionally, between May 2019 and March 2023, the Western Cape government's red tape reduction unit has saved the province's economy 2.4 billion rands through its intervention. Honorable Premier, SMMEs in township are experiencing extortion problems. We welcome your call for the devolution of police powers to increase protection and visibility of police in our township to ensure that our entrepreneurs and children in the township are safe. I thank you, Premier.
Thank you, Member Masipa. Also delivering his maiden speech, I now note the Honorable Benson Nkensu. We will not commence with the time.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the Premier, the Leader of the Opposition, our Chief Whip, and all honorable members. Given the posture of the speech presented by the Premier here today, it is important that one attempt to locate the source of the problem by drawing some important observation from a wealthy great leader and revolutionary, Fidel Castro. I quote and close quote. The truth is that after several decades of neoliberalism, the rich are becoming increasingly richer, while the poor are both more numerous and increasingly poor. Close quote. I stand before you in this legislature, the second sphere of our unitary state, representing the voices of the working class who continue to live in squalor and exploited across sectors of the economy in this province. Deputy Speaker, I dedicate this speech to John Bever Marx, who died on this day, August 1, in 1971, in 72, in the Soviet Union. J.B. Marx, a trade unionist, a communist, dedicated his life to the struggle against national oppression and the struggle against class exploitation. As you remember J.B. Marx, workers in the Western Cape are being killed in workplaces. Thus, I pledge solidarity with the workers who died in the George disaster and even the 11 fishermen who perished following the sinking of a fishing vessel mid-May this year here in Cape Town. This House cannot remain silent when workers are killed in their workplaces. To the people of this province, especially the majority working class, I use this maiden speech to commit to ensuring that your voices will find expression on every matter I raise, discuss in this House. We will work together with you to ensure that your voices are heard within the walls of this legislature. We want you to actively participate in and guide our policy and lawmaking decisions. We ask you to use the power you have to hold us accountable and ensure we practice good governance and implement policies and programs that address the interests and aspirations of our people. Use peaceful mass actions, such as protests and picketing, also as a platform to remind us of our electoral mandate. Deputy Speaker, despite the bourgeois class character of this institution, I commit to using it as a platform to challenge and roll back the status quo, the DA's vicious, barbaric, and violent system of neoliberalism. For all to know, neoliberalism is responsible for the persisting crisis of poverty, unemployment, inequality, rising cost of living, underdevelopment in working class communities, gangsterism, extortion, overcrowding in schools, long queues outside day clinics, and the fragmentation of the workers. It is also responsible for the skewed distribution of resources to affluent communities and the abandonment of productive sectors of our economy in favor of a liberal, speculative, or casino economies. We must abolish this system and usher in a socialist-oriented national democratic society where there will be no crisis of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Deputy Speaker, the Premier in his speech demanded an additional share of the budget from the national government. given the Premier's failure to provide a clear and measurable program of action that will see more resources directed into programs in working class communities, such an additional budget will equally be deployed to serve the interests of the rich instead of addressing the pressing challenges of the crisis of housing, eradication of squatter camps, potholes, road infrastructure, upgrading of taxi ranks, the fight against criminality, and the building of an affordable, reliable, safe, and integrated public transport system. Deputy Speaker, the Premier paid tribute to all forces involved in the rescue mission in George during the disaster. We join you, Premier, in this tribute. Importantly, the Premier considered in his speech that the disaster was man-made. However, his refusal to condemn those responsible for the murder of innocent documented and undocumented foreign nationals who were employed as cheap labor implies a tacit complicity in those deaths. We therefore, request Premier to call for a proper investigation into the use of documented and undocumented foreign nationals across sectors of our economy, particularly the construction, hospitality, and agricultural sector. I also want to invite you, MEC for Agriculture, MEC for Police, and you, Premier, to tour Ceres and the Cedarburg Belt and Grabo to see for yourself the extent of exploitation that foreign nationals are subjected to by their greedy farm bosses. Speaker and honorable members, the Premier could not hide his excitement about the GNU to a point of suggesting that the ANC is in a grand coalition with the DA. However, as he continued with his address, he revealed what I described as a double-edged sword of participating in and taking direction from the GNU on matters that suit the narrow neoliberal interests his party represents, while ignoring those that will serve the majority people of this province. The Premier must be reminded that GNU is not ANC's political program, but a consequence of an electoral outcome following the participation of international capital and bourgeois media for purposes of dislodging our ANC-headed alliance. The minimum program of the ANC remains our shared national democratic revolution, whose strategic objective is the total liberation of black people in general and Africans in particular from the bondages of centuries and decades of colonialism of a special type and apartheid. Furthermore, as a demonstration that the GNU is not a grand coalition arrangement with the neoliberal DA, the GNU is built upon the policy position and the manifesto of the ANC-headed alliance. Deputy Speaker, some want us to believe that their respective political parties are political centers in the GNU. I argue in this debate that President Ramaphosa is the political center in the GNU, not Madam Helen Zille, who portrays as Indodakas of the GNU. Deputy Speaker, I visited various police stations where I interacted with authorities and workers. It emerged from this visit that the crucial organs of people's power, CPFs, lack resource face and lack of resources, support from this neoliberal government. Given the Premier's obsession...
Honorable Member Nkwensu, are you able to take your seat? Are you able to take your seat?
Deputy Speaker, I rise on a point of order. Can the Speaker just speak softer, man? He's shouting at us.
That is not a point of order. Member Nkwensu.
Thank you very much. May I proceed?
Members, due to the fact that the member was on his feet, I then, in terms of the rules, had to acknowledge him. It's not a point of order. We will proceed. If that's in order, there is currently 40 seconds remaining on this particular speech, and it was promptly stopped before you were requested to sit.
Given the Premier's obsession with the devolution of powers, it is also evident that he is prepared to do everything possible to undermine the police by refusing to provide resources. Therefore, the formation of the partnership between the law enforcement agencies and levels of government must not be mere slogan. We request the Premier, who also welcomed the Minister Mkhulu's intervention and approach, to start implementing the Safer Cities model and other national government initiatives, such as the Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy. Generally, the Premier's address was shallow in dealing with measures to respond to community safety issues. Instead, as he usually does, he apportioned blame to SAP. I argue in this debate that
Member,
any
your time is up.
analysis
Please
suggesting
complete
that
your sentence.
flare-up of the gangsterism and all sorts of crime are due to police is flawed. The flare is because of lack.
Please complete the sentence. Thank you.
Must I
You may,
complete the
your time is up, member.
The flare-up
Your
of
time is up,
gangsterism-
member.
Oh.
I note the chief whip of the official opposition.
Deputy Speaker, I think the last time when I checked in this house, when a member is on the floor speaking, you cannot undermine the speaker by showing him sit down and doing all kind of things or closing your ears. When it comes from this side, it's going to get ugly. So I want you to rule on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have not personally noted that. However, I will refer to the table staff and revert back if necessary. Also delivering his maiden speech in this particular house, I now see the Honourable Constable.
Deputy Speaker, Premier, members of the legislature, allow me to greet you in the almighty name of Jesus Christ, the God Almighty, Jehovah Jireh, El Shaddai, Elohim, El Elyon. Deputy Speaker, gister het die premier gepraat oor die GNU en hy was baie enthousiasties. Al wat ek vra, premier, dat ons die GNU, wanneer ons dit met soveel enthousiasme bring na hierdie legislature, dat dit wel uitgevoer sal word, soos wat dit uitgevoer moet word. Wat ek agtergekom het, is dat hierdie provinsie, wanneer dit kom by programme van national government, het hulle eide ander name vir dit, of hulle doen ander goeders. Voorbeeld, terwyl nasionale regering die DDM het, praat ons van die JDMA. Selfde ding, maar ons wil dit net nie gee dat dit 'n nasionale program is nie. So dit is vir my dieselfde ding. Ek vra dat ons dit op dieselfde manier moet doen en ook die programme so moet doen. Ek vra ook, premier, dat dit nie net stop in die City of Cape Town of teen die Huguenot Tunnel nie, maar dat alles uitgevoer sal word tot by die plek so ver soos Maritzburg, sodat die Sentraal Karoo ook uitvoering kan gee en 'n gevoel kan kry van wat aangaan in die Weskaap. Want op hierdie stadium blyk dit asof dit wat gedoen word in die Weskaapse regering slegs stop binne die City of Cape Town of teen die Huguenot Tunnel. Premier het gister gepraat oor die finansiële stabiliteit en financial sustainability en hoe u gaan die VC van die provinsiale regering vra en u het die MEC van Finansies gemandateer om te verseker dat die provinsie sy VC het. My pleidooi aan u, premier, is om te verseker dat wanneer ons die VC het, want die Patriotic Alliance gaan u support, om te verseker dat die VC kom, dat hy VC ook sal uitbrei na al die streke binne in hierdie provinsie, en nie net sal stop by die streke aan die kus nie. Sentraal Karoo, premier, dit sal u gereël word. Sentraal Karoo, ons het nie 'n see nie, maar om te mag doen van land waar u development ontwikkeling kan uitvoer. Ons het genoeg grond, ons het genoeg land, ons het genoeg appetite om te verseker dat beleggers na die Sentraal Karoo toe kan kom. Ek hoop, premier, dat hierdie 7de termyn van u, dat dit seker sal wees dat uitgevoer sal word. So financial sustainability, yes. Financial sê, yes, kom ons maak seker dat dit so uitgevoer sal word. Die energie, premier, ons praat, ons het genoem dat ons deel met load shedding, dankbaar aan die nasionale regering wat dit moontlik gemaak het. U approach, premier, vir my is eensaidiglik. U approach is slegs as 'n provinsiale regering gemik op DA regerende munisipaliteite. Beaufort munisipaliteit, en ek hoop, omdat u nou in regering is, dat dit vinniger sal plaasvind.
Honourable Constable, can I remind you your time has expired? I'm going to allow you an opportunity to just finish your sentence.
U approach, weer eens, premier, wil ek vra dat plekke soos Beaufort West, waar al reeds groot momentum is, dat u
Honourable Constable, please take your seat. Before I get accused of allowing you to continue with Beaufort West, and I don't want to be accused of being biased. Inderdaad. Thank you very much, Honourable Constable. I now recognize the Honourable Marais. Members, this is the Honourable Marais' maiden address to the House, so please allow the Honourable Member to do so without any interjections. Honourable Marais, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I wish to congratulate the Premier on his second term of office and wish his reconstituted cabinet all the best for this new term of office. The Premier referred yesterday to the Government of National Unity, bringing us hope. He said, a feeling of hope and a better or different future. This speaks of change. It reminded me of a quote by the Greek philosopher, and he said, the secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. The formation of the Government of National Unity certainly brings about new possibilities. And I was pleasantly surprised that the leader of the opposition took the initiative to meet with the Premier to discuss matters. This act symbolizes a breakaway from the old way of doing things as we enter the era of consensus politics. Premier, you also mentioned that there were regular floods and disasters, especially the past few years. Let me be so bold as to say, Premier, that we need to establish a risk management task team, tasked with the responsibility to be in a state of readiness to address any future disasters. Provisions should be made in the budgets for such eventualities. A state of disaster must never be seen to have caught us unaware and unprepared again, such as in the case of Citrusdal. A second time, a disaster strike, and then a third time. Even local communities, Premier, must be trained and be in a position and state of readiness and fully equipped to assist during state of disasters. Premier, the Government of National Unity has also given birth to new possibilities when we speak about the devolution of power. Devolution by national ministers to their provincial counterparts. Such devolution should be one of the main priorities in this government. All parties must band together and fight for South Africa's future. In the past, political expediency has robbed South Africans of consensus seeking in finding solutions. And we can win the war against crime if we can win the war against cadre deployment and corruption. Member parties who form part of the Government of National Unity should change their narrative and speak with one voice, have one story, and advocate that we stand with the principles of the Memorandum of Intent at national level. Our province and our nation is waiting to be liberated from the Goliath of poverty and be freed from criminality, be freed from gangsterism. Crime has caused all law-abiding citizens of this province and South Africa to have sleepless nights. Crime has caused children to have sleepless nights, and it must stop. Premier, the people of the Western Cape elected you to lead the battle against crime. Like a David facing a Goliath on their behalf, the responsibility lays on your shoulders. And in this way, like a David only had 5 stones in his shepherd's pouch, in this house, there are 6 political parties that form part of the government of national unity at national. Liberalism, unfortunately, has lost the fight against crime. It is time for a firmer hand
Honorable
and a
Marais, your time has
conservative
expired.
approach
I'm
to
going
issues.
to allow you to finish your sentence.
Premier, in concluding, Dr. Groenewald, our National Minister of Correctional Services, has already started taking pace in sorting out our correctional facilities.
Thank you very much, Honorable
would
Marais.
like to
Please,
ask you-
Honorable Marais, your time has expired. I've allowed you the latitude to
Thank you
finish your
very much.
sentence. Please take your seat.
Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now recognize the Honorable Bryant, and that this is also Honorable Bryant's maiden speech.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And Speaker, it's great to be here delivering my maiden speech. Certainly a different environment in the National Assembly. I think first and foremost having a chamber that we're able to debate in is a breath of fresh air. Speaker, in his speech yesterday, Premier Windy mentioned the impact that climate change is having on our province. Along with committing to work with premiers of other coastal provinces, he spoke about building a more veerkrachtige province, as he put it, one that can withstand the unpredictable impacts of climate change. This will mean both adapting to the changing environment and doing our bit for mitigation by assisting in the just energy transition away from fossil fuels such as coal towards renewable energy. Speaker, reducing our emissions is not just about saving the planet. It's the golden key to economic growth, prosperity, and resilience. Transitioning away from fossil fuels is not just a good idea. It's a winning strategy, and leaders who seize this moment and guide their constituents through the energy transition will not only bask in the glow of political rewards, but also help to mold the future of their communities. While it was coal that powered the Industrial Revolution and coal that has been the backbone of our own energy infrastructure for many years, the world, along with South Africa, has committed to moving on through the signing of the Paris Agreement. Our future prosperity now lies in the embrace of alternative energy sources and the enormous opportunities that come with it. So it's extremely encouraging to note that the DA-led Western Cape generated over 1,000 megawatts of clean energy last year and is on track to far exceed this in 2024. It's also laudable to note that this government will be dramatically increasing the amount of renewable energy in the grid through groundbreaking joint initiatives with our DA-led local governments, such as the state-of-the-art solar PV project being planned for Riversdale, which will generate an estimated 15 million kilowatt hours every year. This, along with the new solar farms in the Toshafir area and the embedded solar project in Atlantis, comprising of over 20,000 ground-mounted solar panels, shows this government's commitment to the transition. But Speaker, we need to do much, much more if we are to build resilience, grow our economy, and keep pace with where we need to be. Major economies and big businesses across the globe are waking up to the fact that moving towards net zero isn't just for the tree huggers. It's in our economic self-interest. And with the knowledge, expertise, and political will at our disposal, the Western Cape is brilliantly positioned to lead the pack when it comes to adapting to climate change and the rollout of new renewable energy projects. A key component of this will be ensuring that we align our own strategies and legislation, where applicable, with the ambitious goals of the new Climate Change Act and take inspiration from the Just Energy Transition Partnership, or JETP, and the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, or JET-IP. These plans are largely dependent on the provision and use of significant funding made available by our friends from the United Kingdom, the United States, Germany, France, Denmark, and the Netherlands. But Speaker, the real cornerstone of the JETP's potential success lies in unleashing the mighty power of the private sector. We must see the climate crisis as a massive opportunity for economic growth and development. And in order to truly take advantage of this opportunity, the Western Cape government must continue to slash through the tangled web of red tape and give our entrepreneurs and businesses the liberty they need to forge ahead, develop new industries, and create those oh so precious jobs which Premier Windy is so passionate about. The era of centralized control over the energy market is now well and truly behind us. We must now endeavor to find fresh, innovative ways to generate electricity and expand our grid capacity, especially in regions brimming with potential like the Western Cape. Let's also take the opportunity to tip our hats to one of our own local governments, the City of Cape Town, which was recognized by the Carbon Disclosure Project as one of just 2 African cities demonstrating real climate leadership. Cape Town really has shown the way forward. And how? Well, by acknowledging the immense value of the private sector and investing wisely in energy infrastructure, and by working to create prosumers, regular citizens and small business owners who are able to sell their excess energy generated by renewable sources back into the grid. Speaker, the Western Cape government's unwavering commitment to a just transition in its climate work isn't just some lofty ideal. It's also a recognition of climate change as a pressing human rights issue, with the potential to deepen existing inequalities and roll back our hard-won progress. We all know that the impacts of climate change don't fall evenly. They hit different groups in different ways, leaving some more vulnerable than others. This crucial understanding forms the bedrock of the Western Cape Climate Change Response Strategy, which guides how our province intends to tackle climate change, both in mitigation and in adaptation. This strategy is guided by the Just Transition Framework for South Africa, which was endorsed by the President back in July 2022. This framework is our guiding star, directing the Western Cape to focus on sectors and value chains most at risk from the transition. In the future, climate change has the potential to cause untold damage to agriculture and tourism, which are the lifeblood of our region. These sectors are not just economic cornerstones, they are vital to the very fabric of our society. So it's not simply enough to help build more renewable energy infrastructure, we also need to be ready to adapt to the changing climate. Although we're currently in the grips of a very wet winter, recent studies paint a rather concerning picture for years to come. Whether we like it or not, future climate change is set to bring lower precipitation, meaning less water for agriculture in the Western Cape. Now, this isn't just a minor inconvenience. It will be a major blow to the Western Cape's farm economy. With less water, our farmers will face a tough time, leading to a drop in both producer and consumer welfare. As if that weren't enough, we're also looking at a decline in total employment within the farm sector, as producers adapt to these harsh new realities by shifting to more extensive production patterns. Jobs will inevitably be lost. If we don't plan for these scenarios, it'll be the poor and vulnerable, those already struggling to make ends meet, who will be hit the hardest. This isn't just about economics. It is, as mentioned, about the very fabric of our society. The repercussions of climate change are far-reaching, affecting not just the livelihoods of our farmers, but the well-being of our entire community. It's a stark reminder that we must act decisively to mitigate these impacts and support those who will be most affected. But Speaker, there are those who will have us believe that there is no climate crisis and that we can continue with business as usual. Even worse, there are those who still shun the involvement of the private sector in the transition and yearn for an era of complete government control over the production and procurement of energy, which was the exact reason why we've suffered with debilitating load shedding for the past 16 years. But we must see behind the thin veil of conspiracy theories and supposedly altruistic intentions and make sure that we forge ahead with creating a new future, one where we grow our local economy and protect all our people from the impacts of climate change. The next 5 years will be critical, and we can achieve an enormous amount by working together, inspired by the spirit of the new government of national unity. We must all strive to be builders of a new South Africa, starting here in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bryant. I now recognise Minister Simmers.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier and Cabinet colleagues, Honourable colleagues in the Legislature on both sides of the House, Honourable guests, physical and online, members of the media. Infrastructure is not merely about concrete and steel. It is a human story. It is the backbone that supports our communities, the veins through which economic vitality flows, and the foundation upon which we build our province's future. In recent weeks, we have heard how the President and the National Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure have expressed their intentions of making South Africa a construction site. As the custodian and the Provincial Executive Authority of Infrastructure, I could not be any happier to hear those expressions. This is not only because it shows an alignment between the new GNU and the spirit of intentional service, it is because there is a multitude of key sustainable projects underway across our beautiful province. Honourable Speaker, as we sit here today, the Western Cape is not just a construction site, but an active construction site continuously underway. Therefore, we are not just becoming, but also we remain the benchmark for the rest of the country to be measured against. But when we talk about infrastructure, we must remember that behind every project, every building, and every road, there are human lives that are impacted. Infrastructure shapes the everyday experiences of all of our people. It determines the quality of our schools, the reliability of our public transport, the safety of our homes, and the accessibility of our healthcare services. Our investment in infrastructure, therefore, is an investment in the dignity, safety, and well-being of all our citizens in this province. At the best of times, infrastructure is a story of human endeavour, human aspiration, but above all, human triumph. It's therefore that my ministerial priorities are very clear and focused in support of what the Premier announced yesterday, Honourable Speaker. We must accelerate the delivery of essential infrastructure while embracing innovation to ensure efficiency and sustainability. We do realize that traditional methods of construction and planning are no longer sufficient to meet the growing demands and challenges of our time in our province. We need alternative models that leverage cutting-edge technologies and innovative practices. Therefore, we need to accelerate the delivery of essential infrastructure. This means increasing both the speed and the scale of our projects to meet the growing demands of all in our province, by ensuring we streamline processes and remove bottlenecks, as we can deliver infrastructure that meets the need of our communities promptly. The floods and inclement weather events since 2022 have had a devastating impact on our infrastructure, particularly human settlements and transport infrastructure. This has had a major influence on the design, construction, upkeep, and operation of our transport infrastructure. Our department's resilience and ability to adapt to climate change on a tactical and strategic level and to produce results on time has been demonstrated by our efficient response. For example, during and as a result of the flood damages, our department, in the absence of national disaster funding, has had to reallocate its resources to ensure that we can at least maintain and open up to 70% of our road network. While sadly, we've had to also ensure we close down certain aspects of our networks due to safety concerns. Recently, some of you might have been stuck on the N1, between the N1 and Sable Road, which was caused by flooding. But yet again, we also saw the other economic impact of climate change on our infrastructure. But once again, our teams with limited resources swiftly responded, ensuring that we opened that crucial intersection to ensure that we can continue with business as usual in terms of ensuring our economy thrives. We did this while we saw also the impact of climate change breach breach the rules of what was designed to actually be safe and ensure safety on our network. In Citrusdal, we are on site as we speak. We have opened alternative routes, which still gives that community access to and fro. And I'm proud to say, Honourable Premier, that in terms of the main road, the MR310, ons gaan nie net 'n spoeg en plak operasie daar doen nie. Our engineers are focusing, we have a clear plan, and we will announce that to this House in due course once we are ready and it's properly budgeted for. Premier, yesterday you spoke of wanting to see more Conradie Park and similar initiatives. Ek stem saam met u. Well, today I'm here to tell the House that in this 7th administration, and with this as one of our goals, we will ensure that we provide housing at an optimal speed. But we will focus on doing it on scale. Die dae van klein dink is verby in die Wes-Kaap. We will focus on alternative affordable housing delivery models, but here we will leverage our departmental-owned land and buildings to ensure that once we implement, we are ready for impactful implementation. But we also need to embrace new materials and methods. It is vital for the Western Cape of the future. And we are committed to exploring alternative delivery models, innovative building technologies, but above all, introducing AI solutions as part of our processes moving forward. These advancements promise us faster, more cost-effective, and environmentally friendly infrastructure development, ensuring higher quality and resilience in all of our projects. In the context of road maintenance, which has been quite mentioned a few times this morning, two examples of how we are doing this already. In terms of the rehabilitation of our roads, we are using concrete crushing to create material that is then reused to actually rehabilitate the same road. We are also stretching our limited budget by purchasing inline crushers to create gravel material to reduce the need to transport such material from other areas, which normally comes at a very massive cost to our department. But partnerships is key for the future of our infrastructure in the Western Cape. And therefore, it is a cornerstone of our strategy in fostering robust public-private partnerships. The private sector's involvement is crucial in pooling resources, sharing risks, and harnessing innovation. By collaborating with private entities, we can unlock the full potential of our infrastructure projects, ensuring timely completion and high standards of maintenance. We intend to provide alternative housing and affordable housing options at speed, utilizing provincially and state-owned land. In this regard, the Artscape Founders Garden development in the centre of Cape Town and the Vredenburg Urban Revitalisation Project are further examples of private sector involvements that will allow the department to provide social interventions at good quality and scale. These projects are now ready for implementation, Honourable Premier. But we also need to ensure that to fund this objective of our province, we must unlock and secure new funding sources, including corporate social investment. Diversifying our funding base, therefore, will allow us to undertake ambitious projects and ensure the sustainability of our infrastructure investments into the future. Innovative financing models and tapping into CSI funds will provide the necessary resources to drive our infrastructure agenda moving forward. In order to mitigate the road maintenance backlog in our transport infrastructure, which currently has a shortfall of 3.5 billion rand per year over the next 10-year period, we have engaged with the National Treasury through its budget facility for infrastructure and the National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure via ISA. And we have submitted 2 projects which I must say is garnering substantial interest from both these bodies. We will seek to extend the R300 North Phase 1 at a cost of well over 1 billion rand. We've also submitted the Wingfield Southern Upgrade Scheme, which links the N1 and the N7. This is an ambitious 11 billion rand project, Honourable Premier. Implementing these projects will align the Cape Town Freeway Integrator, focusing on economic growth, development opportunities, land unlocking, and job creation across the Cape Town Metropole Municipality. In addition to these efforts, South Africa businesses have invested 10.9 billion rand in corporate social investment in 2022. Our department is therefore developing a community participation policy which outlines strategies to better utilize CSI funding to enhance infrastructure provision for all of our citizens in the Western Cape. Speaker, our province has been left reeling from some of the worst inclemental weather occurrences and disasters. And this needs a response, a very rapid response, which is why I call on all the parties present and in this legislature to support my call for the devolution and the decentralisation of the Emergency Housing Fund. Ons moet vinniger kan besluite maak. Ons moet nie wag vir 'n nasionale departement om eendag te reageer nie. Because our people's lives need to be improved effectively and efficiently in record time, in line with what our disaster management teams are doing. But as we prepare the Western Cape for the future, we also need to prepare building the skills for that future in our sector, which is why we are committed to creating a trusted infrastructure pipeline by investing in the skills and capabilities of our workforce. This involves upskilling our existing workers, attracting new talent, and fostering a culture of excellence and innovation within our sector. Through partnerships with a training service provider and the National Skills Fund, we hope to maintain this excellence by embarking in this calendar year on a third-year apprenticeship program that will enable 93 young people to pass their trade exams in the artisan trade of their choice by July 2025. As I mentioned earlier, this province is an active construction site. I wish to share some of the projects to be delivered in the remainder of this financial year. In terms of the Malmesbury bypass, a 650 million rand infrastructure investment, construction year commenced on the 8th of May 2023, and it is envisaged that we are well on track to complete it by the 9th of October 2025. It is forecasted that we will provide 420 work opportunities and provide 55 work packages to local SMMEs and emerging contractors. To date, 147 workers have been employed, and 25 work packages have already been awarded to local enterprises. So we are bringing to life what you call on empowering all of our people in the economy, Premier. In terms of security of tenure, yesterday, Premier, you spoke of the GNU's Vulindlela. As one of its priorities, we will deliver 3.5 title deeds in this financial year, which is why tomorrow morning I will be actually going to the WIP to kickstart our objective towards handing over title deeds and securing security of tenure. In terms of the Van Scoorsdrift interchange or the Greater N7 investment, it's a 788 million rand project. This new link will form part of a high-order road between the West Coast and Durbanville. We are targeting to create 280 jobs and empower 34 SMMEs through this project. And for the remainder of this financial year, we will deliver 4,745 affordable and mixed housing opportunities for all qualifying beneficiaries. But success for my department stretches across so many branches, Honourable Speaker. And I would like to reflect on the triumphant moments which we experience, the human story of my portfolio. Messina Fredericks, who lives in Slangrivier in Essequa, is 109 years old. For the first time in her life, she will be receiving not only ownership of a house, but title deeds which we have made possible through the individual housing subsidy. This DA-led government is changing her life at 109 years old. We also see the empowerment of women in the construction sector. One such example is Ms. Polelwa Mkukwalwa and Ms. Georgina Doyosi. Again, the one has a construction engineering company based in Guguletu, the other in the Somerset West. Both of these have gone through our empowerment programs, and they are now eligible for the advanced mentoring training interventions which we empower these women with. But earlier this morning, and I'm proud to say this because my department is a one-year-old Premier, the Auditor General has formally informed us that for a new department, we have received a clean audit within the first year of being formally becoming our department. Ons kry dinge gedoen. But these achievements and clean government, which is reflected in our clean audit, reflects our unwavering commitment as a department and as a ministry to improving the lives of our people. In conclusion, Honourable Speaker, my vision and our vision for infrastructure is one that places people at its heart. It is a vision that prioritizes innovation, collaboration, and responsiveness. Accelerating delivery and embracing new models, forging new stronger partnerships, and decentralizing funding, we are paving the way for a future where our infrastructure meets the needs of all of our citizens. Want ons bou vir 'n kragtige Weskaap onder die leiding en die visie van Premier Alan Windey, waar vir 55.41% van alle kiesers 'n volle mandaat vir 'n DA-manifest gegee het, en hier is kaptein wat die skip gaan lei. Baie dankie.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, the next speaker is Honourable Lita Kong, and this is also the member's maiden speech.
Nkosi Somlomo mandithathe lithuba ndibulise kwiNkulumbuso yephondo ndibulise Somlomo nawo onke amalungu akhoyo endlini ndibulise nabahlali baseNtshona Koloni. Speaker, despite the Premier's low-key and uninspiring speech in his first State of the Province address for the 7th administration, one could not ignore but notice a change of tone which was missing in the past 5 years of his reign, more particularly when he mentioned his government's willingness to participate in cooperative governance. In his previous term, his attitude regarding governance gave the impression of the Western Cape was a country on its own, which did not need the national government, and it must instead be granted similar powers to those enjoyed by the national government. The instrument they used to try and achieve this pipe dream was in a form of some badly drafted piece of a bill called the Western Cape Provincial Powers Bill, which sought to circumvent the national constitution in achieving its mischievous ends similar to those witnessed during the height apartheid. Speaker, the Premier deliberately refused to address the deep-rooted and burning issue of rife racism in this province, which has now manifested itself in our public schools. Recently, Speaker, a group of learners in Pinelands High School placed two black learners in a cage with gestures and remarks that those black learners were sold or auctioned with different prices, which kept on increasing. Instances of racism in school and social spaces also dominated in your previous term, Premier, and you kept an audible silence regarding such instances. And this really tested which are nowhere to be found. Racism in this province is even institutionalized, as it is found its way to the school's placement system, where majority of those students are black and colored. On the infrastructure, Somlomo, there is a remarkable lack of proper planning and development in the Western Cape when it comes to the issues of infrastructure, and for that we need to be proactive. The recent storms in which continue to affect the province on an annual basis have eroded our public infrastructure, as the service delivery response from the DA government does not equate to the loss suffered while the storms affect the province. And our concern is in the Overberg, your Grabo area, your Khutsong, your Sianyanzela, your Sideview, Makaza, Cape Winelands, Nduli Mbekweni, in Worcester, Zwele Temba, Garden Route, George, Tembale, Tukwanuktula, Kwanunqaba, which are neglected when it comes to infrastructure development. The recent storms have resulted in a road closure leading to the Hildestrom prison facility and the Sunnyside farms, where I reside, resulting in an emergency operation led by the members of SAPS as the Western Cape officials folded their arms and watched. This government needs to take all people of Western Cape seriously and not only focus on a select few who happened to be white. Somlomo, I would love to personally invite the Premier to come to the Overberg, Dievertes Kloof, Ward 5, where there is a road that, there is a river.
Honourable Member, your time has expired, so I'm going to allow you to conclude your sentence.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lita Kong. Honourable Brinkhuis.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Premier, in the Western Cape, in the poor and working class sector, most citizens have fought and died not to only achieve political freedom from apartheid, but for socio-economic and religious freedom and justice. The province citizens yearn for these, and they were looking forward to hearing about fundamental plans to tackle pertinent issues such as unemployment, decent jobs, secure neighborhoods, healthy environments, safe schools, and special care for the elderly, those with disabilities, as well as the abused women and children. The Honourable Premier, in fact, delivered self-patting on the back for achievements without any filtering down to the lower income and marginalized communities. Let it be mentioned that they are still waiting for the Premier's promises that were made during his first term. The 74% households in the province, which the Premier boldly says has at least one income, now this, to say the least, is laughable, as they are struggling households that cannot survive with only on 1,500 rand per month. From 2011 to 2021, the unemployment rate jumped from 18.3% to 29%. Since the province poverty remains intolerable high, and as a result, the gaps of inequality widened not only in Greater Cape Town, but in other areas of the province as well. The city's manifestations of objectable inequality are not only insufferable, but unbearable. Considering these negative developments, fresh policies should be devised to counter these. Number one, the province spatial planning still reflects the remnants of apartheid. Number two, the housing backlog has increased with more than 400,000 waiting in a queue. Number three, the high unemployment continues to be psychologically, socially, and economically burdensome. Number four, the expansion of the province Sabine outlets and drug dens in the sprawling townships across the province should be closed forthwith. And number five, the decrease in safe environments and suitable recreational facilities continue to be a concern. Let us make a point that recently we witnessed unlawful evictions in the city suburbs such as Salt River and Reitawag, as well as in the Drakensberg municipality found in the letter. We have seen several illegal farm evictions without those responsible found guilty of these insensitive and inhumane acts. It seems that the Premier is only satisfying the needs of the elite groups instead of addressing the requirements of the majority of marginalized. Now, to tackle and overcome these challenges, there is a need for strategies that include short and long-term projects that would not merely remove inequalities, but eradicate them. The Premier should ensure that every child has the right quality education. Every able person has a decent job. Every citizen has the necessary health care, and the province has an improved social welfare system that addresses everyone, including the refugees and asylum seekers' needs. In conclusion, the point is that the province should redirect itself to create both short and long-term employment and make sure that menial labor jobs are available for our unemployed. Since the Honourable Premier spoke about cutting red tape in the private sector for work opportunities, he should ensure that it becomes a reality. So he should not ignore the informal traders' plea to do away with all the red tape, when they apply to trade. Though the reports state that the province is in a race to keep up with a rapidly changing world, it has fallen short in serious tackling the various historical inequalities in various sectors, from the economic segment to the housing sector. I thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Brinkhuis. I recognise the Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, let me respond to the Premier's SOPA yesterday. The first problem, Speaker, that we are facing is that people is dying every day. People is dying every day, and I want to know what the Premier is saying In the previous administration, the Premier said they will cut the murder rate by half by 2029. Is that on track? How are we doing as a province? Speaker, when I debated the Premier before the elections, I informed him about being in Kailicha with 30 ACDP members where we were robbed and mugged, and I was almost killed if the gun did not jam. By the grace of God, I'm still alive. But communities is living like this in a daily basis. If you go to Manenberg, you go to Bonteheuwel on a daily basis. So I want to know, I wanted more flesh when it came to community policing. And of course, the ACDP agrees with the devolution of powers to the police and rail, because we need powers in order to have operational powers when it comes to the police. But let me get to education, Speaker. Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Now, Speaker, it's sad if we see headlines in the Cape Argus, South African Human Rights Commission to investigate racism at our schools. This is unacceptable, and as the ACDP, we condemn that. But Speaker, we want to know from the Premier what is being done. Is the investigation happening? The media saying all the reports, but what is actually done, and what is the circumstances around that? It does not happen on one day. There must be a build-up. Surely the school had to take note of that. But Premier, if you can just explain, because I thought, we must condemn this, and as a government, you must condemn this. But Minister Mania, there's good stories also at our schools. Speaking to the learners at Phoenix High School in Manenberg, they have 2 hours per day extra classes, the matriculants, and they also go to school on Saturdays. So I want to tell you, to tell the department and the school districts, well done to empower learners to do better in matric. The same is happening in Heideveld High School. Speaking to learners, they are excited to go to school. So it's hard work, and I want to see the Western Cape again, #1 with the matric pass rate. That is what we're working towards. And Minister, well done to you and the department. Speaking to a girl, Jordan, not Jordan Hill Lewis, Jordan Hill, she's very excited and want to excel. And they attend these classes in order to come out of this poverty, this mindset. So well done. Just another thing. We are still concerned as the ACDP with Crestway High School in Retreat. They had the lowest pass rate of 35.9%. It's concerning, it's alarming. And Minister, the problem was, is that teachers were absent. Premier, can you believe it? They get paid and they're absent. It's a problem. It must be addressed. Teachers must be there in order for our learners. And of course, when they're not there, they lose out on work. But not that only. The classes, if they want to, is already overcrowded. And by teachers being absent, that was a big problem at Crestway High. And then I visited Alshood High School in Alsies River. Vandalism is something else. As I was walking there, they were replacing ceilings. They were replacing stolen cords from stoves. And that's why I engaged the school. I spoke to the community, because also the community must take ownership. So I encourage us. We must go to those communities and say, how can we assist? And I even said, don't you have weekend programs? Because it happens over a weekend. And I don't want to talk about holidays, but weekends, the schools are usually burgled. But I want to challenge all of us. How do we get involved with communities to see how can we assist it's not just government's responsibility, it's all responsibility. So in my closing remarks, I just want to say the following, that I believe that the department is striving to have quality education in every classroom, in every child. But still, Minister and Premier, that is not happening. That is not, there is
Honourable
not
Christians,
quality
your time
education in
has
all our schools.
Honourable Christians, your time has expired.
Thank you very much,
Please
Speaker.
conclude. Thank you very much. I recognise the Honourable Heron.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, in July 2019, when the Premier first addressed this Parliament as Premier, he set out a clear vision for our province premised on 4 priorities: jobs, dignity based on education, making your life easier, and living free from fear. But yesterday, the Premier delivered an opening of Parliament address as if he had no record or history to account for and no future to care about. Instead, we heard about the administration's award for the use of technology, and we heard about the award for being a preferred employer. What was clear is that we have a fully functional administration that is tech-savvy and basically happy to work here. The unbearable part was that the Premier's failure to recognize that if it is true that our administration is stable and modern and satisfied, then his government has the administrative capacity to support a vision to do bold, courageous, and big things. But when you brag about the capacity of your administration and fail to present a plan to end the unnecessary and abnormal suffering in our province, then having a well-run government with a few trophies in the display cabinet means nothing to the people who struggle for survival every single day. The Premier was obligated to first account for what was achieved and what has failed against the promises of his first term of office. Then he had to address how he would fix those failures and what new priorities had arisen in the meantime. And he didn't really do that. In 2019, the Premier promised a job in every home and a provincial economic growth rate of 2.5% per annum. But the province achieved an anemic 1.1% annual growth rate over the past 5 years, and instead of putting a job in every home, we lost 3,000 jobs in 2019, 180,000 jobs in 2020, 75,000 jobs in 2021. We started to recover in 2022 and 2023, but 2024 got off to a rocky start with a loss of 17,000 jobs in the first quarter, being the worst performing province in the country. And this deserves an explanation. Firstly, because the first quarter is the high season for our tourism sector. It is our big retail season, and it is our services sector's high season. But also because the Premier's Growth for Jobs plan is premised on growth in the critical sectors of infrastructure and services. And those were the 2 sectors that lost the most jobs. We agree that the province needs an infrastructure-led economic growth plan, but the province has failed to implement a successful one, and there were no details yesterday of how this would be achieved in the next 5 years. When it comes to 2019's dignity commitment, the Premier failed to account for our declining matric results. Once the top-performing province for matric results, the Western Cape has steadily slipped down the totem pole. Perhaps this has something to do with another failed experiment, the Western Cape Safety Plan. The Premier defunded education and health by over 1 billion rand in order to dabble in law enforcement. Yesterday, the Premier claimed that the safety plan was succeeding. Well, tell that to the people whose children and loved ones are dying in the killing fields of the Cape Flats every day and every night. The objective of the safety plan, we must remember, and its measurement of success was the murder rate, the reduction of the murder rate in the 10 most violent police precincts. Claiming 34,000 arrests as an indicator of success is a deflection from the murder rate that has gone up since the safety plan was implemented. In the areas where LEAP officers were deployed, murder has gone up every year from 1,584 murders in total in 2019-20 to 1,778 murders in 22-2023. The investment of nearly 2 billion rand in learner law enforcement officers has been a failure, and it would have been better to listen to your own research and invest in the root causes of crime. One of those is the apartheid spatial plan and the discrepancy in infrastructure and services between communities. This government has done nothing to address well-located affordable housing and thus spatial integration. In 2019, the Premier pointed to the Conradi Better Living model as an example of spatial integration, and he did so again yesterday. But Conradi was a plan and project implemented by the former Premier, Helen Zille. In fact, it's so old, I actually served on that working group called the Better Living Game Changer Working Group. This Premier cannot still be relying on Conradi, a project his government inherited from the hard work of others. After 5 years in government, the Premier has failed to identify, plan and implement a new integrated housing project, and he's still relying on
Honourable
the work
Heron,
done
your
by
time
Helen
has
Zille.
expired. Please conclude.
So in closing, Mr. Speaker, we welcome the Premier's acknowledgement that climate change is real. We call on the Premier to commit to appointing an environmental commissioner
Thank
and
you very
tasking that
much,
commissioner
Honourable
to
Heron.
future-proof
Please
our
take your
province.
seat. Thank you very much. Order. Order. Honourable members. Order, members. I'm just giving a moment for the podium to be set up for Honourable Winvogel. Order, members. Honourable Winvogel, I recognise you.
Is it on? Baie dankie, agbare speaker. Premier Ellen Windy, die leier van die oppositie, Khalid Mohammed Said, honorable members en ons spesiale gaste, sowel as die mense van die Weskaap. Speaker, as we debate the Premier's opening address for the 7th administration, it's crucial to remember that the DA has been the governing party in the Western Cape for 15 years. Contrary to the assertions of effective governance made by honourable members earlier today, the past 15 years has been marked by significant failures and decline in several critical areas. Firstly, education quality. The rapid decline in the education quality is evident. The matric results for 2023 show the Western Cape falling to 5th place nationally, with the lowest number of bachelor's passes in no-fee schools. This drop reflects the worsening educational standard under the DA leadership. Secondly, lack of transformation. There has been a troubling decrease in the number of black professionals, African, coloureds and Indians, occupying senior and top management positions within the provincial government. The DA disregard for transformative policies, the employment equity and affirmative action highlight the lack of commitment to meaningful transformation. Thirdly, infrastructure neglect. The closure of GF Worcester Hospital nearly a decade ago, the DA refused to really listen to the poor people. It remains unbuilt and is projected to stay that way until 2033. Who's suffering? The poor people. Fourthly, Honourable Speaker, environmental oversight. Our Premier resistance to appoint an environmental commissioner undermines the effort to effectively address our environmental challenges. This resistance reflects a concerning lack of commitment to environmental and public health. Lastly, Speaker, arbitrary dismissal. The DA government has arbitrarily dismissed over 100 LEAP officers and previously terminated the contract of 1,000 safety ambassadors without cause. It is the same DA that fired Principal Wesley Newman on unfair grounds while it keeps protecting the likes of Farrell Payne. So, the claim of effective and good governance are contradicted by these persistent failures in people's lived reality on the ground. Even the government's response to the recent Cape Storm has not prioritized the people from informal settlement and other working class communities who were displaced and lost all their belongings. I urge honourable members to remain truthful and as we engage on this debate. Speaker, the Premier address was an opportunity to reflect on the state of our province and outline priorities for the upcoming year and term. Unfortunately, it fell short. Instead of specific strategies to tackle pressing issues like poverty, unemployment, violent crime, and inequality, we receive a general narrative that failed to engage with the immediate concern facing our people. The glaring omission of specific plans to address these critical issues deeply troubling. Poverty, unemployment, and violent crime are real. Urgent crises affecting many in our province. The Premier discussions about low voter turnout, 41% of eligible voters, reveals a significant issue. The answer is clear, Premier. People are disillusioned with a government that has consistently failed to address their needs. Under the DA tenure, these issues has worsened. It seems the DA may be deliberately neglecting poor working class communities, leading them to become disillusioned and disengaged from the electoral process. To reverse this trend, we must confront the truth. It is the DA government that is failing our people. Instead of withdrawing from the electoral process, our people should be mobilized to vote out a government indifferent to their suffering. This will hopefully bring the change our province desperately needs.
Order.
Honourable Speaker, immediately after the conclusion of the DA intergovernmental dispute with national government, Premier Windy and his administration are gearing up for another confrontation with national government over a Public Procurement Act recently enacted in law by President.
Order.
The DA grievance with this act is provisions for preferential procurement set aside for historical disadvantaged groups, mandatory subcontracting, and local procurement. The DA perceive this act as a threat because it will block their practice of awarding all school maintenance projects in the Western Cape to only 5 big contractors, sidelining many small and emerging contractors. In some of our guests is victims of this behavior, of this DA
Order,
government.
members.
The DA perceive this act as a threat because it will block their practice of awarding all schools maintenance projects to their big funders. While some in this house want us to believe the rapid school build is great initiative, emerging contractors are crying foul on the ground. Of this additional resources from the National Treasury mentioned earlier, how much will be going to the emerging contractors? According to the Western Cape Construction Development Association, the DA government decision to sideline and marginalize over 100 emerging contractors has forced them to lay off staff and leaving over 10,000 workers and their families facing severe economic hardship. This exclusion is unjust and unconstitutional and must be challenged. The DA talks about job creation on the one hand, while it's deliberately killing small and emerging business on the other, leading to high unemployment of black people, Africans, and coloureds and Indians. We support the President's decision to enact the Public Procurement Act and commend the ANC government standing firm on transformation despite DA opposition. We also urge the President to expedite the signing of the Bella Bill into law, resisting calls from figures like the DA Minister Education to amend it. We also call on the National Minister to persist in the fight for full implementation of the NHI Act, despite the ongoing challenges from the likes of solidarity and health insurance schemes and the DA. The people of this province are actually aware of the need for the NHI to address severe healthcare inequalities. In the Western Cape, patients face long waits for ambulances, and terminally ill patients from rural outskirts of the province are sometimes forced to travel 2 days to reach a hospital. Some health facilities have resorted to using security guards as makeshift healthcare workers, turning patients away if deemed necessary, a stark testament to the DA's disregard for the poor. The quality of medical care remains unjustly dependent on skin of color under this DA administration. The failure to address these disparities is a moral and an ethical outrage. Issues like those at McGregor Clinic and Robertson Hospital, which I raised earlier this year, remain unaddressed, leading to continued patients' death due to staff and bed shortages. Speaker, racism is honest. Racism is alive even here in the House. For instance, MEC Mbombo was one of the candidates awarded in the governing woman category in the Mail and Guardian Annual Power of Women Award ceremony for her contribution and leadership in the public sector of health. MEC was removed for no reason and replaced by a white MEC. Member Masipa will learn soon how things work in the DA. Signing for your supper
Order.
does not work here.
Order.
While the likes of Mbomba are removed, the like of Deadwood, like the MEC of Title Deeds, who is failing dismally in the Department of Infrastructure, remain in office. This is unacceptable.
Order, members.
Honorable Speaker, we have credible information that JP Smith, everyone is scared of JP Smith. He's the premier in the province. One of the most punitive MECs in the city of Cape Town is intensifying his assault on the minibus taxi industry. His effort to traffic bylaws which have already been used to impound taxis over minor infractions are
Honourable
alarming.
member, please take your seat. Honourable Masipa, is that a point of order?
Yes, it's a point of order.
What's your point of order?
Can the speaker be assisted with somebody reading, because I see she's struggling, you know.
That is not a point of order. Please take your seat.
On a point of order.
Honourable,
On a point of
order,
Chief
members. I'm still on the floor.
No, man.
Honourable Chief Whip, I will recognize you now. Honourable member, that is not a point of order. Honourable Chief Whip of the Opposition, what is your point of order?
Chief Whip, Speaker, with the utmost of respect, we cannot continue with this new member that is always out of order, just standing up. Didn't he read the rules of the House? He must familiarize himself with the rules, then come back and call orders.
Thank you very much. Honourable Chief Whip of the Opposition, that is also not a point of order. So, Honourable Van Vogel, my apologies. You may continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The minibus taxi industry is being unfairly targeted and victimized under the guise of law enforcement. This strategy not only undermines and cripples the industry, but also leverages it as a revenue generating tool for the city of Cape Town. The punitive measures proportionately affect an industry crucial for providing affordable transportation to thousands of working class citizens. As the ANC, we vehemently oppose this unjust targeting. We call on the provincial government to support this vital sector by allocating additional resources and providing full subsidization to ensure its sustainability. There is also an urgent need for infrastructure development to support the minibus taxi industry, including expanding taxi ranks in high-demand areas like the city centre and Belleville. Speaker, the Premier's claim about the success of land reform are misleading. Despite asserting an 83% success rate, the reality is that African, Coloureds and Indian populations, which make up 86% of the Western Cape population, own less than 3%. Wat is skande. Of the agricultural land, meanwhile, the white people own approximately 70% of the urban land. The DA rejection of the expropriation bill further undermines efforts to rectify these imbalances, perpetuating the historical injustice and obstructing progress towards equitable land distribution. DA members want us to celebrate the gains made in the agriculture economy, but they ignore important factors like the need for transformation in the agriculture economy.
Honourable Van
President
Vogel,
Mandela was correct
Honourable
about
Van
this
Vogel, your
party.
time has expired. Please conclude.
While Speaker, while we know the positive impact of tourism boom on job creation, we remain concerned about the lack of township tourism and the lack of support for small rural towns and working class
Thank you
communities.
very much, Honourable Van
The
Vogel. Your
benefit
time
tourism
is
are
expired.
I thank you,
expired.
Speaker.
Thank you very much. That was longer than a sentence. I was waiting for the comma. Thank you very much. I now recognize the Honorable Kaiser Philander. Order, members. Honorable Nkondlo, if you want to address the chair, can I please ask that you get up and then address the chair, and I will gladly engage. Honorable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, today also marks the start of Women's Month. And let me cite a quote from the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, when she said, "We will get through this together, but only if we stick together. Be strong and be kind." Through you, Speaker, it is so like the shrinking, nationally and provincially rejected ANC opposition to play the blame game during a period of national disaster, a period that, irrespective what your political affiliation, color or creed, a call for help is one that requires collective responsibility and support. Deur u agbare Speaker, ons agbare kollega van die NCC sal gou genoeg sy oogklappe afhaal in terme van sosiale uitdagings. Deur u agbare Speaker, agbare Jacobs, dit wat ons mense mee sukkel. En die premier van die Weskaap het op menige platforms melding gemaak dat baie was gedoen, maar daar moet egter nog meer gedoen word. En diens en diensbaarheid vra nie vir die kleur van jou vel nie. Die ANC het hierdie land uitgemergel en met die R&E skep ons hoop, want Suid-Afrikaners het gepraat. Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier, Honourable Members, and esteemed guests in the gallery, I want to recognize the dedication and the commitment of the residents of South Africa, especially those in the Western Cape, who firmly believed in working towards the betterment of our country and this province. Your resilience, your hope, and your unwavering belief in a brighter future have been the guiding light for us all. It is important to recognize and appreciate those individuals who sought to unite us rather than divide us during the election season. Instead of succumbing to the tactics of hate and discrimination, there were those who stood firm in their belief that a government should deliver on their promises to the people and stood in recognition of a tangible Western Cape government successes. Honourable Speaker, regardless of our differences in appearance, sexual orientation or religion, residents chose to remain steadfast and place their trust in those who have a proven track record of serving with excellence. This trust should never be taken for granted, as it is a powerful force that can move our nation even more forward, as proven on the 29th of May 2024. Honourable Speaker, the Western Cape Government's commitment to social development is unwavering, and this is evident in their continuous efforts to address the challenges that our communities face daily. Today, they are at a crucial juncture in their journey towards social development, a journey that prioritizes dignity, empathy, and a real change. One such initiative, and again the Western Cape stands out from the rest. On the 25th of July, the Premier Alan Winde and Provincial Minister Jaco Lond launched the SWIM's Social Work Integrated Management System app, a collaborative effort between the Premier's Department for E-Innovation and Social Development, recognizing the crucial role of social workers in maintaining the dignity and well-being of our communities. The department identified the need for a system to streamline alternative care management process for children. This innovative app addresses several key challenges that is faced by social workers, including intensive paper-based systems, complex administrative tasks, high levels of stress leading to resignations, inefficient national processes, lack of proof or evidence, and repetitive tasks. The SWIMS app aims to alleviate these issues, significantly enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness of social work in the Western Cape. With this app, social workers can spend more time on what truly matters, providing care and support to those in need. By reducing the administrative burden, this app empowers our social workers to be more present and effective in their roles, ensuring that every child receives the attention and care they deserve. Honourable Speaker, most impressively, the SWIMS app now allows for a social worker to process an application in as little as 7 minutes. But let us not forget the human element. Our social workers are more than professionals. They are our community's lifeline, often stepping into the most difficult situations to bring hope and support. Sadly and regrettably so, Honourable Speaker, social professionals are often targets for crime, attacked, and even hijacked when entering certain areas, and this is completely unacceptable. These brave individuals are offering assistance to those who need it most, helping them get back on their feet. We must ensure their safety and provide them with the support they need to continue their vital work. This government should continue exploring partnerships with local law enforcement and community organizations to enhance the safety measures for our social workers. Their protection is not just a priority, but a necessity, and they are the backbone of our social development initiatives. Honourable Speaker, let me highlight the profound impact of our social workers have on the lives of individuals facing desperate situations. Many people are losing their jobs and homes, find themselves living on the street and enduring the harsh realities of homelessness. Our dedicated social workers respond to such cases with urgency and compassion. They quickly assess each situation and process applications for support. Social workers arrange for individuals to enter local shelters where they receive immediate care and support. And at this stage, we must applaud the City of Cape Town for their recent interventions with regards to providing those safe spaces for our communities. At these shelters, people are provided with basic necessities, counselling, and access to healthcare. With the support of social workers and the resources available at the shelters, many individuals are able to regain their confidence and rebuild their lives. Honourable Speaker, within a few months, these individuals often secure new jobs and are able to thrive once again. This demonstrates the invaluable role of social workers played in transforming lives and fostering resilience in our communities. Honourable Speaker, poverty alleviation and skills development are at the core of this government's social development strategy. By equipping individuals with skills that they need, we can break the cycle of poverty and empower our communities. Accessibility and quality of services are also crucial components of our social development efforts. The DA is committed to ensuring that all residents have access to services that they need, from healthcare to education to social support. Our goal is to create a seamless and efficient service delivery system that meets the needs of our communities. And this includes investing in infrastructure, improving service delivery processes, and enhancing the quality of care provided. Honourable Speaker, social development is also a powerful tool for crime prevention. By addressing the root causes of crime, such as poverty, lack of education, and unemployment, we can create safer communities. Our social development initiatives are designed to provide support and opportunities to those at risk, helping them build a better future and reducing the likelihood of criminal activities. While addressing the issues of poverty and social development,
We must also acknowledge the complex challenges surrounding homelessness. It is crucial that we work collaboratively with various stakeholders, including NGOs and community organizations, to develop comprehensive strategies that addresses homelessness effectively. By supporting and funding these organizations, we are providing individuals with the necessary resources and support to rebuild their lives, reunite with their families, and to reintegrate into society. Honorable Speaker, I truly believe that this DA-run Western Cape government is a caring government, committed to working for you. The efforts in poverty alleviation, skills development, improving the accessibility and quality of services, and applying social development as a tool for crime prevention are testament to this. The DA believes in the power of unity, trust, and
Honourable
dedication
Kaiser Philander, your time
to
has
move
expired.
our
Please
province
conclude.
forward. Let's continue to work together to build a province where everyone can live with dignity and hope for a brighter future. And we will not rest until every
Thank you very much,
individual
Honourable
in the Western
Kaiser
Cape
Philander. Please take
can
your seat.
thrive.
Thank you very much. I now recognize the Honourable Minister, Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Good morning, goeiemorgen, namaste. Speaker, there is a distinct sense of hope in the House and in South Africa. Progress, momentum, moving forward. In the Government of National Unity, we are pushing to build constructively while holding our partners to account. Our DA Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure is tackling stalled projects and enhancing development through construction. Our DA Minister of Home Affairs has reduced the work permit backlog by 30%. Out of more than 306,000 pending permit applications, more than 100,000 applications has been cleared by a DA Minister of Home Affairs. Yesterday, our Premier outlined his commitment to continue building a growing, inclusive, infrastructure-led economy that creates jobs, building energy and water security, and creating safer communities, devolving law enforcement resources, and improving the education, province, and healthcare systems. Speaker, just under a week ago, I led our Western Cape delegation at the 46th session of the UNESCO World Heritage Committee as we heard that South Africa's nominations for 2 World Heritage sites were successful. This significant achievement is an example of our excellence, the results of years of hard work and collaboration between different spheres of government, academic institutions, and many others. And I want to thank you to my predecessor, Minister Maree, the Premier Alan Winde, and when he was a MEC of Economic Development, he already saw the vision of what was coming. So thank you, for colleagues. I really laid a great foundation of what we have achieved. We can lead the way amongst the best in the world. We can achieve global best practice. Speaker, we are building the future moving forward. Our priority in the Government of National Unity is to build and move South Africa forward. We believe we can influence and lead the Government of National Unity to deliver excellence for the people we serve. The ANC Chief Whip interrupted the Premier's address yesterday, claiming that he was not speaking to the needs of the people of the Western Cape when he shared the news of our newly inscribed World Heritage Site. This comment was very revealing. It shows the fundamental lack of understanding by our ANC colleagues about how to enable opportunities for economic growth and jobs. This UNESCO inscription is exactly what the people of our province need. World Heritage status for Deep Kloof Rock Shelter on the West Coast and Pinnacle Point in Mossel Bay, it's not just a nice-to-have accolade. It's about promoting our rich cultural heritage. Culture is the new gold for the world. It is about boosting local economy, creating work opportunities, and bringing development to the areas. Shortly after the inscription, as the news started to spread around the world, I got a WhatsApp from the Deep Kloof Museum, and I quote exactly, "All of a sudden, the phones won't stop ringing. Everybody wants to visit Deep Kloof. We have so many bookings, I must just sort out the guides," close quote. This is why we celebrate this global recognition, because it is a vehicle to enabling communities to thrive. These two sites, along with Sibudu Cave in KwaZulu-Natal, are called the cradle of human culture. The evidence uncovered at these caves help us understand the origins of modern human behavior when early humans starting to behave more like we do now, using tools, creative art, thinking creatively, and living together in communities with more complex communication. This is a story about our ancestors' remarkable resilience, creativity, and the capacity for innovation. It is an incredible achievement for all people inside and outside of this government who has worked on this province. Congratulations, everyone. We will continue to celebrate these achievements as a government that cares for its people through action and delivery. Honorable Speaker, I'd like to take some moments to respond to some of the points raised during this debate. Honorable Khalid Said rightly talked about the unified approach and supported the Premier's statement on the new GNU and the need to work together. Sadly, honorable members, the ANC has no sense of self-reflection. Honorable Khalid Said via you, Speaker, and I quote, "People are faced with the hard realities of daily lives," and I close quote. It's like something they discovered for the first time yesterday. We've known this for the last 15 years. That's why we participated in an elections, because we know these realities. What was caused some of the realities? Some of these realities, honorable members, were the disbanded gang unit, the destroyed ESCOM, the destroyed SAA, and the destroyed budget surplus, now that we're sitting as the begging bowl of the world with the highest youth unemployment. These are the harsh realities caused by the ANC government. That's why they dropped below 40%. So, interesting, Deputy President Paul Mashatile said yesterday that the government is not in the business of owning airlines. We've been saying that for the last 20 years. The last 20 years we've been saying it, and he said the government should consider selling SAA. These are the members asking, am I still in the sixth administration? I'm trying to point to the member a critical fact. The harsh realities of the people of the Western Cape of South Africa didn't start today. Wasn't caused by members of this side of the bench whose only focus has been to resolve these challenges caused by that side of the bench.
Members.
The honourable member, thank you. He said he wrote a letter to the Minister of Local Government and Gift of the Givers. Can I add to his letters? Because he seems to now become a letter writer. Let me add the following letters. A letter to the Minister of Transport, a letter to the Minister of Police, and a letter to the President to start devolving the functions we've been asking them for years. So, Honourable Minister Said, let me start by quote, and I've done the favour,
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Honourable members, order members, I'm on the floor. Honourable Nkondlo, I'm on the floor. Honourable members, interjections are allowed and heckling is allowed, but you are continuously having a running commentary. Can I please ask that you allowed the minister, like you had an opportunity throughout this debate, to make your inputs and were protected from the chair? Honourable Windvogel, I'm still on the floor. Can I please ask that you allowed the minister an opportunity to make his submission? If you do not agree with the comments or the input by the minister, lunch is directly after this and you can engage the minister outside of the house. But Minister, you may continue.
Thank you. What I've actually started doing, I started drafting a letter while I was sitting here. So here's the letter the Honourable Said can write. Dear President Ramaphosa, the ANC has failed in managing gangs and police in the Western Cape. Please, as a sense of urgency, give this portfolio to the Democratic Alliance, close quote. Dear President Ramaphosa, the ANC has failed in managing trains in the Western Cape. Please give the transport portfolio to the DA. Thank you, Honourable Said. Dear President Ramaphosa, the ANC has failed in managing Transnet. Please give the portfolio to the DA in the Western Cape. Thank you, Honourable Said. So I've started to writing some letters. I'll give it to him during lunchtime. Honourable Member, Speaker, The policy proposals member side was talking about he wants to give to us, the voters didn't want. They didn't land in the election. They got 40%. So we do not want their policy proposals because the voters didn't want them. We will implement our policy proposals because that's what the voters wanted. They believed in us and they gave us 55% to govern the Western Cape, and we will govern them the way we want to with the voters. Thank you, Honourable Member Van Manen, for the work that you've given. We are indeed getting to work. While we're starting to work in the Western Cape, the other provinces were still negotiating how to loot. Honourable Member of the PA, ek stem heeltemal saam met u. Kom ons vat hande en ons doen dit saam en ons werk saam met mekaar. Maar net soos minister Said, het u ook 'n minister in die kabinet. So u kan ook 'n brief aan hom skryf en ek het ook 'n brief geteken wat u aan hom kan aanskryf. Meneer geliefde president, my naam is minister Mackenzie van Kultuur en Sport in u kabinet. Kan u asseblief die polisieering aan die Weskaap aanwendel, want hulle kan beter bestuur as u. Dankie, Iwe Keiten Mackenzie. Ek sal ook vir u daai brief gee deur middagete vandag. En dan oor fondsinsameling. Baie dankie vir die raad, maar nee dankie. Die laaste keer toe u julle fondse ingesamel het in Beaufort West, het die geld verdwyn, so ons sal nie u raad vat nie. The honourable member of the EFF is not here.
Order.
The honourable member of the EFF is not here. She keep talking about we brag, we brag. Of course we brag. We have things to brag about. That's why we can brag, and we will continue to brag because we've got something to brag about. The members of that side of the house have absolutely nothing to brag about. And the honourable member listens in via the coffee section.
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Honourable members on both sides of the house. You are now affecting the decorum of the house. And can I please ask, Honourable Nkondlo, I'm on the floor. Honourable members, we are at the end of a very heated debate. I'm asking that you allow the Minister to please conclude or make his input. The Minister's in actual fact got 7 minutes left, so Minister, you're not concluding. So, Honourable members, you had an opportunity. Okay, well, in that case, I will wait until you are done with your conversations across the floor before I continue with the sitting. Members, are you done? Honourable Minister, you may continue.
Thank you. And the honourable member from the EFF raised the issue of the Grabouw Community Centre. I would strongly suggest, as a member of the legislature, she conducted an oversight visit because the centre is operating 24 hours a day as promised. So she should take the opportunity and go and conduct an oversight visit. Honourable Member Jacobs, thank you for raising the issues on the gang horse. Very important. But interestingly, when we marched to Mitchell's Plain Police Station, you didn't join us. In fact, the honourable members came to swear at us. When we raised the issues of the gang, the 12 guns that were stolen in Mitchell's Plain, the honourable members came and called us names. They didn't join us in the police station to hand over the memorandum to raise the issue of gang
please
violence.
take your seat. Honourable Petrus, is there a point of order?
Thank you, Speaker. Ek moet net vra vir die agbare lid om nie
Order, members. There's a member on the
die
floor.
DA deel te maak van die DA en die ANC se probleme. Ons is nie deel van dit.
That is not a point of order. That was not a point of order. Minister, you may continue.
Thank you. No, I was addressing Honourable Member Jacobs. So yes, Honourable Member Jacobs, the issue of gangsterism, as you know, is a big issue to us. But we marched to Mitchell's Plain Police Station. We marched to Philippi Station. We demanded accountability from Mitchell's Plain and Philippi Station. When we marched to the ANC's offices in the foreshore, when their president met with the gangsters in Genadendal.
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. Honourable Nkondlo, is there a point of order?
Yes, Speaker. Can you please...
Honourable Nkondlo, what is your point of order?
Can you please caution the MEC in his excitement not to address members directly? We must address them through you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkondlo. That, in fact, is a point of order. I'm going to, Minister, remind you that you must speak to the chair if you want to address a member of the House. Honourable Minister, you may
Thank
continue.
you, Chair. It's clearly a touching point, but I want to raise it again. When the president of the ANC and the president of the country met with gangsters at Genadendal, the seat of government, the NCC didn't march with us to the foreshore to go raise those matters. We've been taking these matters seriously for years. So we're asking them to use their seat in National Parliament to call for the devolution of powers to the Western Cape, to call for the devolution of crime intelligence to the Western Cape, to call for the devolution of states of assistance with state security. These things matter to us. That's why we raise these things. So I urge the honourable member of the NCC to join us in the fight for devolution. They now have a seat at the table in the National Assembly, and they must use it effectively to fight for what we have been fighting for years. That will be their contribution to humanity. Honourable Bensu talks about new liberal policies. It is the new liberal policies that enable job creation. It is the communist policies that we're sitting with the highest unemployment in the world. It is the communist policies that destroyed SAA, Transnet, crime intelligence, South African Police Service, the post office. It is the communist policies that has done so. So the new liberal policies is the one that is saving South Africa. The new liberal policy is the one that keeps AGOA at the seat in Washington. It's the new liberal policies that has the Western Cape as the lowest unemployment in the country. It is the new liberal policies that has a functional government, clean orders, accountability. That is what is happening. So the legacy of J.B. Marks, you will be embarrassed to know that a cabinet minister, Blade Nzimande, the fund under him spent 123 million rand in buying vehicles, 200 rabbits. They were supposed to buy 10,000, nee, die man is heel gevaarlik. 200, waar is die 10,000? That is a blatant Zamanzi, your communist colleagues. If you're so serious about fighting the anti-corruption or fighting this and that, then Minister Zabandi, you should call for his resignation. In fact, to quote from the services CETA that was quoted in the Sunday Times, you're talking about workers' rights. They said it is known for its exorbitant expenditure for law firms to terrorize workers. What kind of a communist terrorize workers? That is the communists that are too scared to run the election campaign. That's why they didn't even participate in the elections. But now they want to attack the ANC for having a government of national unity. On undocumented foreigners, interesting, undocumented foreigners didn't teleport into South Africa. They came through the borders. How? There's the border, the washing line fence, member Herrens and his party. They're responsible for the washing line fence. And your government, they build a washing line as a fence. And that is the reason those undocumented individuals are here with us. Honourable members.
Order, members.
Honourable members, Honourable Member Herren was a member of the National Assembly. A member of the National Assembly, the highest body, legislative body in the country. He did not once lead a debate on crime intelligence. He did not once lead a debate on rail for devolution, despite the fact he served 8 years as a member of the MACO Member of Transport. He did not once lead the debate there on issues affecting people on Mitchell's Plain. Because I follow him on social media, I know what he leads. So the issue, and it shows in his results, they lost the seat. They lost the voters because voters see they didn't represent them there. So this is their last one song. In 2029, they'll all be goodbye. So certainly wouldn't take advice from him on how to fix solutions because he didn't use that opportunity he had in national government to raise issues that are fighting for the people of the Western Cape. I did pay attention. You just didn't deliver all these issues. Honourable Constable, baie dankie vir die insette. Ons waardeer dit. Ek stem saam, alle klein dorpies moet 'n gedeelte van die koek kry. Maar wat het in Beaufort gebeur? Daar was 'n geleentheid, 'n groot geleentheid om vir Beaufort Dubai te maak, maar nou is Beaufort Kubai. Daar gaan niks aan nie. So ons gaan ongelukkig nie raad van u ook vat nie, want daar het niks aangegaan daar by Beaufort. Honourable Member Brinkhuis,
Order.
thank you very much, via you, Speaker, for some of the comments that you raised. But you're very privileged now. You're very privileged, Member Brinkhuis. You have the Deputy Minister of Social Development in Cabinet. He's your leader. So if I were you out WhatsApping your speech to say, this is what you said, please fix it. Because he can implement it. He's the Deputy Minister of Social Development, and all the issues you raised are social issues. So you have a very good advantage. Yeah, call him, pick it up,
Order.
send him a WhatsApp. You are very privileged in that situation. Honourable Member Likaton from the EFF is not here. I do agree with her, definitely. There. Oh, she's here, she's back. Okay, thank you.
Order, members. Honorable Litakong, when you want to speak or address, please be in your bench, stand up and switch on your microphone, and then I will recognize you. But you cannot do what you just did across the floor. Honourable Minister, can I please remind you again to speak to me and not directly to the members?
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Litatong, I definitely, it's common cause there is a change of tone. There is a change of tone, and it's a nice tone. It is an exciting tone where the country is going with a national unit, government of national unity. But I know how you feel. It's cold outside, a home room. It's cold how your leaders are now sitting on the outside while we're all in the home room trying to build the country forward. So I don't blame you for your feelings. I don't blame you for how you feel. But it's lekker nie binnekant, because we're going to build South Africa and take South Africa forward. The last point on education. You know, there are two things we can understand. If somebody asks my colleague here, Minister David Mania, what are you famous for? The young child, they will say, this man built schools. The fastest school built in the country, 67 days,
Order.
world records,
Honourable
never
Minister,
done
please
before.
take your seat. Honourable esteemed guests in the gallery, you are very welcome in the chamber, but can I please remind you that you may not partake in the debate on the floor, so you cannot make any comments and you cannot participate. And that's just a reminder to all our guests in the gallery. Honourable Minister, please continue.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker. But if you ask the same child, what is the National Minister of Education famous for? The previous National Minister. They will say for the destruction of education. So some of the members made comments about education. We're very privileged in this province. We have a government that cares, we have a government that wants to build, and we have a government that focuses on education and building schools for education. And the more important point, Speaker, is the allocation of funding. The Western Cape, our money was taken in here more than
Minister,
R1 billion.
your time has expired. Please conclude
And
your
not
sentence.
not one of these members have raised the critical issue of fair
Thank you
allocation
very
to
much,
the people
Minister.
of the Western
Please
Cape,
take
and
your
we
seat.
deserve it. Thank you.
ma'am. Thank you very much, honourable members. Honourable members, that concludes the debate on the Premier's opening address. Honourable members, business will now be suspended. Members and guests are invited to enjoy some refreshments in the members' dining room. The Premier's reply, honourable members, will commence at 14:15. The bells will be rung at 1:45 to indicate to members and guests to please take up their seats, and the bells will be rung again at 2:10 to indicate the resumption of the business for the day. The House is now suspended.